No, I won't read any of it.
Okay. Very good. Okay, I'm going to call meeting of the Ojai Valley Sanitary District Board of Directors for January 26th, 2026. Order. The time is 6 o'clock. Allison, could we get a roll call, please?
Sure. Director Martinson,
Here.
Director Fintosh,
Here.
Director Quillisi,
Here.
Director Reed, Director Curtis,
Here.
Chair Quillisi, and Chair Ulrich.
Present.
And then Director Berg has notified us of his absence this evening in advance.
There have been no requests for.
It has not.
Very good. Then in that case, then we'll do the pledge of allegiance. See, would you like to? Lead us?
Begin. Pledge
I
allegiance to
pledge it to the
the States of America, the Republic,
for which it stands, one
nation,
nation, under God.
indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right. Are there any additions or amendments to the agenda?
None that I know of.
Right. Do we have any public concerns? Opportunity for members of the public to speak on the agenda?
Two people on.
All right. In that case, who's first?
I don't know if they have anything to say, but
Okay, is that, could the members of the public, that's, saying Dan and Michael? Well, Dan's not, that's our Dan, yes?
I don't know if it is.
Okay, are
I'm assuming it is, but I
there
don't know.
any members of the public that like to speak on items not on the agenda?
It's your Dan, and I have nothing to say.
Fabulous. Yet another, another concern abated.
Yep.
All right, and Michael? No. All right, in that case, then, we're going to go to the consent item, agenda item 6, 7, and 8. That is a roll call vote unless anyone wants to have any questions or discussions. Hearing none, let's go. Oh,
Sorry, I was just thinking about what I was looking at. How will the 072030 instance, and I get different. How were the charges calculated?
That is correct. It is a initial connection of an existing single-family residence and then plans for a new construction of an accessory dwelling unit. So that would have been calculated proportionally based on OVSD 82.
And that's what I was wondering. Let me get down to. Let's take a second.
You cannot do it.
Broken down on page 27.
There. Struck me that ADU is proportional. House, as I understand it, is 16023. Is ADU, how many square feet is it?
Based on square feet, it's based on point count for fixture units. And so a one with a proportional charge of 12,819.06 is going to have 3/4 of the fixtures roughly as a 25 unit assumption of a single family dwelling. So it's likely 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, generally what equates to be 12,000.
The ADU is 2 bedrooms, 2 baths.
Likely 2-bedroom, 2-bath based on that $1,000 value.
We don't know how many square feet it is.
Right offhand. It's going to be 1,200 square feet or less.
It seems really high to me for ADU.
The average accessory dwelling unit that comes through is 8,000 to 12,000. Unless it's very, very small with any fixtures, no real basic amenities in the kitchen. Single compartment sink, no dishwasher, no laundry.
Here's my problem. When I started looking at this, I've seen two things written. There's an ADU handbook, and there's the various California regulations. One of them mentions that they have to be done on square footage. Another mentions that it can be done on fixtures. It seemed to me when I read them today that they were in conflict. So when we first created these rules that we're operating under, it was COVID, or it was right around COVID, as I recall, 2020. There's been at least 3 revisions that I know of. Another one here with January passing the ADU law. But I just, are we certain that we're doing this right? I guess it's because like I say, what I saw today said it should be based on square footage, and then another spot said it could be based on fixture units. I think the way we established our rules way back was fixture unit. And that's how you did this. We'd prefer to see an actual calculation when we submit these things so we know what it is rather than just numbers back up. But anyway, it strikes me, the more general issue in my mind is we haven't as a board reviewed these ADU laws since we finalized ours in 2021. I'm wondering if it would be worth for us as a board, help of our friendly dentist, to go through and make sure that our rules are consistent with new laws.
Agendize ADU units. Law. The meetings.
That's what I'm suggesting, is that we go back through all those, some prior research, and just make sure that there's a way we can do that without necessarily involving Dennis's time, or that is, this California housing and development thing offers to go through our rules and regulations and give an opinion as to whether we're compliant or not. Establish new rules. I think we have 30 days or something like that to submit that to that audit board. I don't know what
HCD.
no rule or says that we can't ask for a confirmation.
HCD reviewed our ordinance that we currently have in effect and had no objections. That was submitted upon approval.
Say that again?
HCD has reviewed OVSD 82 and submitted no objections to it. We were required to submit it to them after adoption review.
That's what I'm saying. But that was done 4 years ago. So I'm just wondering, given that the new is different, it would be worth them asking them to go back and review those again, just to make sure we're still consistent. My guess is they've not done that on their own volition. Every special district in the state, every time this legislation changes the rule. So anyway, like I say, I was confused when I looked at it as to whether know what we do. Not sure that's consistent with what I read today, but in any event, I think we should review that at some other meeting. You guys are convinced this is the right way to have done it for this one. It is based on fixture units. That's consistent with the rules as we have them written now. So again, I would like to see in these write-ups just some sort of a calculation shows how those numbers were arrived at. That's possible.
It's on at least 2 of them. I saw it on all 3, but
I didn't see any calculation.
but I would volunteer to pull up extracts anywhere in the, yes, it's the public health code. Right, or
The government.
the government, okay. I'll pull them all together and look at them.
Actually, I made a similar request a few months ago at the board meeting. Asked if we could have a committee meeting. Have some ideas for how we can incorporate a little more friendly for the smaller ADUs. Just kick them around at a committee. That's the ordinance committee. We can kind of kick it around in an ordinance committee.
Find out next month who's on the ordinance committee.
Well, want to make sure you guys are okay with scheduling another meeting of that group.
So now, so fundamentally, we have to, what's on the table?
To merge our two requests, okay with doing it as committee?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. I would.
Are you on the ordinance committee?
I have no idea. Not right now, but he
I'm
says I
still
may be.
volunteering, pull together
I
the
see.
ADU law,
Something-
present it,
Have something to discuss it, the aforementioned.
whether I'm on the committee or not, I'm happy to pull that together.
Maybe we can make the committee that you're you.
Very mergy.
Whoever's the chair is gonna decide who's on that committee.
See what happens when you open your mouth.
All right, so, okay, so you understand what the merged motions are, I guess?
There was a motion.
There's not
A request, excuse me.
I've noted the request, but I think we were looking for a motion to approve that
Well,
on a separate thing.
We're looking for approval of the consent items, but we are still discussing some of them.
yes, exactly.
My question was, how did we calculate this? What I've been told is we did it based on fixture units, which is consistent with our current. I don't know if that's consistent with current law, but it's consistent with our rules. So that answer, I'm happy to proceed with this one.
Okay, in that case, then, do I have a motion?
Move approval of 6, 7, and 8.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Very good, Allison, please.
Director Curtis,
Yeah,
Director Martinson,
Yes.
Director Kintosh,
yes.
Director Quillisi,
Yes.
Director Reed,
Yes.
and Chair Ulrich.
Yes. Right. Next item is, our items for the public hearing. Item 9 is public hearing for administrative appeal to the Board of Directors pursuant to Ojai Valley Sanitary District Code of Regulations, Section 917 et sec. For the property, located at 167 North Pueblo Avenue, Ojai. APN 017-0-153-430. Property owner is Michael Sepak and Sarah Clark. So, yes,
I just want to, for the record, all board members have been given a written comment for item number 9, which won't be read out loud, but it will be submitted as part of the administrative record and part of the minutes.
yes. Yes, so, at this point, I guess we hear from staff first, or is there any public comment, is there? Besides
Just the written comment that was provided.
that was it?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. All right, well, that'll be included in the administrative record. Okay. So, I'm opening the public hearing at 6:14 PM. And we're ready for the appellant's opening statement and presentation of appeal.
Director, Chair, should I say, directors, welcome. My name is Mike. I'm the property owner. The comment, was that a comment on I understand that's a comment on my item. Do I get to see that comment, or at least to find out if it's in support or in non-support of my,
Yeah, I'm happy to provide you a copy of it. It'll be part of the administrative
I
record.
understand. I guess, is it in support or not? That's the main question.
It looks like it would be in support of.
I mean, it is a statement of interpretation of government code.
I appreciate it. That satisfies me for now. Let me start with, it's been sort of heartwarming to hear Director Martinson here question the fees, because I do believe the district has some issues with how the fees are calculated. Not necessarily the mechanism they use, but the fact that state law requires proportionality. Now, if you had your ordinance reviewed 5 years ago and you hadn't made any changes, then HCD is not going to come and review your ordinance. And I say that as someone who does state housing law for a living, okay? Specifically ADUs and affordable housing, all right? We've had some decisions going back to 2024 by the California Supreme Court, the Supreme Court, about a case on ADU fees and their proportionality. And the Supreme Court, in fact, ruled in favor of the person appealing. And it had to go back to local government to recalculate those fees. This is in relation to a manufactured home, but it was in relation to fees calculated by local jurisdiction. So I applaud your curiosity. I think you 100% should do that because I do not believe your fees are proportionate. I'm going to tell you about my project a little bit. My project is 200 square feet. It does not have a dishwasher. It has a single bowl sink. It has a shower, toilet, sink in the bathroom, and a washing machine, right? This district calculated my fees. Oh, I might add a little bit more color to it. The county deemed my project as a low-income unit. Affordable housing, right? This district calculated my fees at $8,000 for 200 square feet and what, 5 fixtures? I get that count right? $8,000. I am not connecting with a new lateral. I am connecting to my existing lateral, which means I am not exceeding my assumed capacity for the 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom dwelling, which also maintains 5 fixtures. I do not have a dishwasher. I have a washing machine. I have a single bowl sink, shower, toilet, and a sink in my bathroom. 5 fixtures in my main home. 2 beds, 2 bath, under 900 square feet. $8,000. Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to vote on 2 things. And I checked this with staff, and they advised me I can plead those 2 things to you. One, of course, is the appeal. And I'll get that in a second. The other thing is voting on a variance. Because your ordinance, your code has a variance mechanism. And I intend to show that through no fault of my own, my project is now being charged $7,000 in excess of what I should be paying, which is $1,000. So let's start with this, right? I'm going to say some things here. Let me rephrase that. I've been put in this position by the district, and it is not of my own doing. Now, I also need to acknowledge that I'm going to have to point out some of the Ojai Valley Sanitary District staff procedural failures, right? That does not mean I hold any ill feeling, but I will have to show to you that the district staff have failed me to the point where now I'm out of pocket. I'm having to pay fees I shouldn't be paying, right? Scott and I discussed this at length. Of course, we went through an administrative appeal here. And based on our discussions, I think we found common ground in certain things that we agree upon. The first thing is that carports, which is what I have currently on my property, and which a large portion of my ADU is within the footprint of it, that the carports can be converted into ADUs. This is supported by this district's decision on 3 separate projects, including 12 carport conversion, right? 12 units, not 1, 12. That project, their sanitary district fees were $8,000 for 12 carports and 12 units, right? The second thing, Scott and I agreed, is that my project, in principle, meets the definition of conversion as defined in state law, not in your ordinance, as defined in state law. It is a question of semantics. It's essentially what I called it upon submittal to Ventura County, which is my permitting authority, right? And the third one is that all materials that I submitted for the administrative appeal were the same materials I submitted to the county. What I mean by that is the plans I have provided to Scott for him to make the decision on appeal were stamped by Ventura County and included the description as submitted to Ventura County. Exactly word for word. They are not different. They are the plan set that I have approved, right? So how did we get here? Well, my architect submitted plans, as you do, in September. fees were calculated by Allison at $8,000. I got the letter, or they got the letter, they let me know. I put a call into the district and I asked, what is this about? I do state law. I understand fees for ADUs need to be proportionate. The districts I work with, their fees for new ADU connections that are not a brand new lateral are between 10% and 5% of what this district charges. So between $400 and $800, right? And that is a fact, let me tell you. Now, I was told that the only way to not pay those fees is to fit in the definition of a conversion, right? And I asked, well, how do I do that? Is it just a question of semantics? Because I'm arguing that I have an existing established structure on my property that's the ADUs within it, within that footprint, with the additional square feet, but no more than 150 per your ordinance, right? That's what the ordinance says. I was told, just submit and I'll look at your plans. That's it. Now, I do this for a living, right? So I'm a man of maintaining a record. So before I submit it, I send an email asking, can you please define what a conversion is? I sent that email to Allison. In that email, I asked, hey, I saw your ordinance. Yeah, your ordinance says conversions are exempt, but it does not define a conversion, right? And I want to know what the definition of a conversion is, right? Let me tell you, and this is a quote, right? Because facts matter. The quote that I got back in response to that email, it seems you are looking for ordinance to specifically define every term used in government code. This is not a requirement. Now, your district staff member basically told me I don't get to know what a conversion is and that it is not material. Now, I don't know about you, but $7,000 to me is material, right? That's a lot of money. I have a college fund for my kid. I have a small home. I work for a living, 9 to 5. $7,000 is material. Your staff told me they don't need to tell me that, right? So what do? I put a public records request in because I know there's got to be another conversion of a carport that I can look at and compare the plans, right? So I did that. What happened with my public records request? Well, public records request went in. The district refused to provide me any plans for the ADUs that avail of the conversion. They provided me permitting information, but not the plans. Now, the plans are crucial because I get to look at what someone else got away with in calling a conversion, right? And what I get and what I'm doing on my property, right? So I was told I don't get to see those plans. I asked why. Well, a section of government code was quoted at me saying we don't need to do it because of that section. I'm not going to read the section. I'm not a lawyer. Again, I do state law. You have counsel, I believe, so counsel can weigh on that. The section that was provided to me does not preclude you from releasing the plans. All it does, it says, if there's another statute in state or federal law that precludes you from some reason from releasing those plans to me, right, then you cannot release those to me. And I can tell you what that means in practice. In practice, that means critical infrastructure. If I'm asking for plans for your plant, for example, for whatever reasons, you probably say no, right? What I asked for is plans from the property line in, right, for what was approved by the county. Now, just to show you that I'm not entirely insane, I went to the city, because 3 of the 4 ADUs that avail of the conversion, I went asking about the plans. I didn't even have to do a public records request. They just printed them for me and gave them to me. Why do you think the district withheld those plans? You're going to have to answer that question because I'm going to pursue this no matter what the outcome of this is, because I believe it is a violation of the Public Records Request Act. But listen, they gave them to me because they knew they were required to. Now, this district withheld those plans from me because they did not want me looking at those plans and finding out that my project is exactly the same like the other projects that avail of this conversion, right? They thought they could quote government code at me and I would go away. Well, I read government code for a living. So I read it and I understand it and I interpreted it. And legal counsel or not, I'm pretty sure I'm right. And their determination was wrong. Right, so what happened then? Of course, I didn't get the plans. And I did not get an answer to what a conversion is. So I'm stuck. I have to submit, right? So I submitted my plans. same plans that are with the county. The only difference is I called it a conversion on my plans, right? I submitted those plans. Allison calculated my fees, $8,000. She said I can appeal, so I appealed. Scott and I went through this, right? I put an appeal. The appeal was granted on December 1st. So Scott's appeal, Scott looked at what I submitted, the merits of the case, and granted my appeal. And this is in your, in your documents, right? Now the appeal, and this is very, very important, so I need you to listen very carefully. The materials I submitted for my appeal were the plans that I had already approved with the county. They were stamped with the county approval, and they were calling out new detached 200 square foot all electric ADU. The cover page was there. It called it exactly what it is. Now I submitted those plans to support my appeal, and I won my appeal. So what do? Well, I'm happy. Call my contractor because my permits are ready, right? This is the last one. I call my contractor, send me the contract, sign the contract, send them a holding deposit of thousands of dollars, right? We're going, pulling permits tomorrow. Let's go. Construction's going, right? I call the county the next day in the afternoon. Hey, I want to pull my permits. Ojai Valley Sanitary District put a hold on them. No, you cannot pull these permits. You need to talk to them. What happened? Well, apparently, because the description, the one word, because the plans are the same. You need to remember the plans are exactly the same, right? Because of that one word, that it doesn't call it a conversion, the district says it cannot be a conversion. Now look, you have your own ordinance, and your ordinance speaks to conversions. And I was told that after the fact, right? You think I would be told on October 4th by Allison that the district decides what the conversion is based on the building official's determination of Ventura County. If I was told that, my permits were still open. All I needed to do is go to the county and change that description. They wouldn't care. I get what I get in terms of ADUs. Calling it a conversion or a detached ADU that's new doesn't give me any additional ADU that I can put on my property. So there's no difference there. And because it's within the existing legally established structure, they would allow it. Now, when I was told after I won my appeal, weeks after, in fact, months after, I was told that actually our district determines the appeal based on the building officials, my permits were done. Right? I can't reopen them. So what do I have to do? I hired a contractor based on the letter I got from you. I send them a deposit. Now they're not going to wait for me forever, and I have to pay them a retainer, right? So I'm already in a hole, right? Because of your negligence, right? Next thing, right? I would have to resubmit to the county the same plans, very same plans, just change the description. And then go through the 6 to 8 to 12-week plan check, right? And then get those permits approved for the sake of producing the same project, the same size, and the same location with no difference to fixture count or anything like that, right? So that's what, $5,000 for an architect, $1,000 a week for a retainer for my contractor, all based on the fact that I hit go because you guys told me I can, okay? So a will serve was issued and retracted. I would argue that, and in fact, 2 will serve letters were issued. Both of them called my project a conversion. It wasn't until the third one was issued that suddenly it was not a conversion. And those letters are also, I submitted those, you can see those. One was issued, I believe, on December 2nd. One was issued on December 10th, right? Your code does not state that you get to withdraw support for a will serve letter. It is not in your code, right? It doesn't say that the general manager can do it. It doesn't say that the board can do it, right? A will serve letter is a legal document, right? And if you're going to withdraw it, you need a legal standing to do so. I've not seen it in your code. Now, admittedly, I've word searched it. I'm not going to read hundreds of pages of your code, but I've searched for particular phrases that lead me to believe no one has the authority to withdraw that. I do accept that the will serve letter says it's conditional. I do, but you need legal grounds to do so, right? What I'm here for really is 2 things, right? One, I think your ordinance is deficient. And look, I deal with municipal codes all the time. And I sometimes have someone come to my counter and say like, ask a question that makes me think. It's like, oh, you know what? You have a point. We need to fix this, right? I think you should fix this. My second question for you is, we all work for I work for the local government too, right? I'm very happy to do so. The state, the feds constantly come in with regulations. We just discussed what the state says about ADUs, right? And tells you what you have to do. And basically you kind of have to eat it, right? Whether you agree with it or not. Why would you relinquish the control over what a conversion is to anyone else but yourself? It's in your code that conversion is allowed. You don't define it. You should probably define it, right? But if you're going to adopt someone else's definition, your code needs to do that. And your council will tell you, you then need to adopt it by reference. There's no staff policy. There's nothing that staff here were able to point to explain to me what a conversion is, right? Until, of course, my will cert was issued. And then suddenly the definition became clear. Oh, actually, the definition is what the, what the building official says. Well, maybe tell me that ahead of time so I can get ahead of that, right? That unfortunately did not happen. So it's two things that I need you to do. Ideally, I win my appeal, but I accept that that might set a precedent for you that you might not want to set. Well, then you have another option, right? And your option is this, and I think this is the fair option to do here. Section 918, variance of your own code, right? Notwithstanding any other provision of this code, the district board may grant a variance from terms, conditions, or charges set forth here where special circumstances make it reasonable to do so. Your staff failed me. That is a special circumstance. They should have told me what the definition of conversion is. I would have amended that on my plans with the county. We would have been done. None of us would be here. Instead, there's how many of us in this room having to do this right now? It's small government does not need to be wrapped up in so much red tape. So thank you very much. I'm going to grab a drink, but I know it's up to Scott now. So please take it away, Scott.
Oh. Yep, still. Scott, your turn. Sure. It's General Manager's opening statement in response to.
Yes, so Mr. CPAC and I have had an opportunity to meet in person at least 3 times. He was very cordial and receptive to understandings and thinking that whole time. So I do want to give that precedence there that he's been very forthright. I did review government code. It's section 65852.2. It's been recodified in government section 66324. Also read ordinance OVSD 8082, all which specifically address the treatment of ADUs, including sanitary sewer fees and charges. My review of the code indicates that we have the ability to either, this is more often initial comments, have the ability to look at either square footage or on fixture unit counts. Both of those can be used as a proportionality, is my understanding of the code. Based on that, with Mr. CMAC's permitted project, with the building official, and for this particular project, it's with the county. It was approved as a new ADU. I believe Mr. CPAC is right. He did submit the entire set to me, but there is a little bit of an additional information where it is explicit in that it's not identical. One portion that goes to us says a conversion. The other one that is at the county does say conversion. It is different in those 2 words. In any event, it was submitted as a conversion, not as a new ADU. As such, in accordance with law and OVSD ordinance, I ruled that a capacity charge is due because it is a conversion. If Mr. CPAC, I also ruled, by the way, in the GM appeal that if Mr. CPAC resubmitted the plans to the county.
You said because it was a conversion?
No, all right, let me rephrase. I said that as such, in accordance with OVSD 82 and state law, a capacity charge is due because it is new. If, however, Mr. CPAC resubmitted the plans to the county as a conversion and the county approved the revised project as a conversion, then there would be no capacity charges due.
this the rebuttal portion for me, or is this the?
Okay, since, go
Where
ahead.
do we get to ask questions?
Well, is there any problem or objection to asking questions along the way, or are we supposed to wait till the very end?
I think it's better process to wait till the end. If Scott's done with his,
It's item F.
Yeah.
It comes later.
Okay. Right, so, in that case, then, I would, you can say it's the time for rebuttal.
Okay, no problem. I mean, Scott, he's absolutely right. I think the color that needs to be added to that, if I were to submit the exact same plan and just change the wording from, they are the exact same plans, change the wording from new to conversion, this would be accepted. And I can tell you with a degree of certainty that I'm willing to give my left hand, that is allowed under state law. Now, the other bit of color that I need to add, and I stressed this already, but I'm going to stress this again, for my administrative appeal, right, with the general manager of this district, I submitted the plans that were already approved with the county, which called the ADU out as a new 200 square foot all electric ADU, right? So those plans for the appeal, the plans that were used to decide the appeal, they're no different. They're the exact same plans. I made sure of it because I did not need to include the cover page for the particular portion of the appeal, but I did all the same because it has the title block and it calls it exactly what it is, right? And I'll give you another example here because I work with these people. I don't work for the county, but I work with these people. And the district put me in a really embarrassing position where the county was thinking that I was trying to somehow hoodwink someone and get out of fees, right? So let me tell you, because when I submitted, I drafted a statement, right? And this statement said, to whom it may concern, I'm writing to request that my proposed ADU project at 167 North Pueblo be classified as a conversion project for the purposes of determination of the sewer capacity fees. The proposed ADU will be constructed in place of a legally established existing structure, carport and a shed, that previously existed on this property. The existing structure is being removed and replaced with by ADU substantially in the same location and footprint, consistent with California Government Code 65852.2 brackets E, brackets 1, brackets A, which allows for the replacement of existing structures with ADUs that retain protections the same as conversions, right? Furthermore, HCD guidance clearly exempts ADU from capacity-related fees, and project falls within the spirit and functional impact of a conversion, with no significant increase in water and wastewater demand. It also adheres to the Ojai Valley Sanitation District exemption policy for conversions of projects for conversion projects plus 150 square feet, right? Based on that, I respectfully ask that you consider it a conversion, right? So this is a statement that is true to form that I submitted along with my plans, right? I don't like to be made to look like I'm trying to lie, which is why I drafted this statement, which is why I included my plans that were approved by the county. Now I'm here with my trousers down because this district refused to tell me what they consider a conversion until it was too late. Thank you. I believe now you get to, I guess Scott gets the rebuttal stuff.
Sure, rebuttal, yeah.
So my stance is OVSD nor I am in a building official. So without further guidance, I don't feel that it's prudent for me to make a final determination onto whether a project should be designated as a new construction or conversion of existing structure. The county building official is qualified to make these determinations on conversions versus of existing structures. As such, I follow the county's determination whether Mr. CPEC's proposed ADU is new or a conversion.
Right, so, I believe that's the questions. This is, we're at item F now. Questions or inquiry of board of directors to both appellant and general manager. I don't believe that's in any particular sequence, so, you're first.
Lucky me. I have a question for Scott. In all the materials that you provided in here, which I went through in detail, was there any information on what the definition of a conversion is that you presented to us today?
I did not find any definitions of a conversion from from another, whether it's from the county or from anything I looked at, no.
So the county, as the permitting agency, has a choice whether something's, how to characterize it, whether it's conversion or new, and yet they have no definition published or otherwise available?
Not that I know of.
May I, is it appropriate if
Absolutely. If you'd like to jump in on it.
I can? And so the reality of it is, with the way the state law is, if I submitted this project as a conversion, which simply I didn't through the function of like, I didn't feel like there was a reason. I could have, let me tell you, I could have, and it would have been just fine. And you will appreciate this because the feds and state specifically does probably come for you pretty hard for stuff that you have to do that you might not agree with, right? The reality of it is local jurisdictions are going to go off largely what the applicant submitted. So if I submitted as a conversion and they saw an existing structure, my plans, they would have gone with it. It's as simple as that.
Did you do that?
I didn't because I didn't get the guidance from this department to do so. Well, when I asked, right, I could have done that. Of course I could have, and it would have been just fine. But when I asked, I was told, go pound sand, basically, which is like talking to me as someone who works for the government.
And you're saying this is the go pound sand or the moral equivalent thereof came from Ojai Valley Sand?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. In case I have an entire raft of questions, because you just made some reference to state and federal, but we're not involved with.
No, what I mean is,
Those aren't the those are not the
Sure, no.
countervailing authority in for this appeal. This appeal, the authority is sanitary district code, and then, of course, the implication of the sanitary district code beneath and subsumed within California state government code.
that is correct.
Okay, now, so we're all on the same page here. So federal references are.
I'm not quoting federal law. What I'm saying is, local jurisdictions.
I would submit they're not relevant.
Okay, fine.
So having said that, I just want to make sure that we're all starting on the same page of music here. You have read the general manager's report that's contained in this?
I have, I wouldn't say, I didn't look through the attachments.
Okay, but you read the report. Okay, that's, yeah. A lot of us are like that when it comes to attachments. Unless they suddenly turn out to be really important and then wind up reading them on the fly. Okay, now, well, he countervails everybody else who doesn't.
The attachments were mostly related to what I did, so I'm fairly familiar with them.
That's very good. Okay, so having said that, would you agree then that the county of Ventura, let's call it the building official, we'll call it the building department, is the permitting agency, is the determining agency regarding characterization for new versus conversion? No. You would not agree with that?
No, because your ordinance, and when I called the district and asked for a definition of a conversion, I was told by Allison that you have a very robust definition of what a conversion is. So then I requested the section of the code that speaks to it, and it does not define it. And because it does not define it, I followed up with an email asking, what does the district consider a conversion? Now, because you have conversions in your code, right? You are the agency responsible for determining that unless, stay with me here, unless you adopt a different code by reference, and you have it, so you determine it.
Excuse me, but the county doesn't have a determination? They don't have a distinction between conversion and new? Is the county not the permitting agency?
It is the permitting agency, yes, and.
Okay, well, wait a minute.
Okay, go on, yes.
We're going to deal with this logically, as
Absolutely.
I'm sure that's what you're interested in.
Yes.
Okay, if the county's the permitting agency, the issue here is fundamentally how the county has characterized your project.
I
The county has characterized it, right, with the stamp.
disagree with that, but go on.
Well, but everything I've looked at, that's the distinction. The county is the permitting agency.
Mm-hmm.
The county's characterized it as new construction. If you have an issue with a definition, what has the county said about this discrepancy?
They said I can resubmit as a conversion.
And why have you not done so?
Because you guys granted my appeal and I proceeded with my project.
Well, we've got to grant an appeal because you put in, you requested an appeal.
No. You granted my administrative appeal.
Well, but that's because you appealed. So I'm,
No, I won my appeal. I won my administrative appeal.
I get that, but I'm still waiting for the answer to why you haven't. That doesn't explain to me why we're engaged in this appeal process when all it would take, apparently, correct me if I'm wrong, is you recharacterizing your project and submitting an amended application for a permit.
Sure, I can answer that. I felt like I answered that already, but let me answer it again.
I must have missed it.
So I saw the district guidance on what they consider a conversion, right? Now, before going back to the county and recharacterizing my project, right? Because at the time I could have recharacterized my project.
They're the permitting agency. Why wouldn't you recharacterize it?
Because they didn't require me to do it, you did.
Oh, well, that's because they're not trying to charge you for a capacity fee.
Huh?
Okay, they get their fees through the permitting process. And at this particular point, it would seem to me that an error was made either on the part of the county or on your part as far as the application. And I don't know who. Somebody resulted in it being characterized as new construction, and you've made a very good case that it's a conversion. But once again, the county is the determining agency for your building permit.
Well, okay. I think we're misunderstanding here a little bit.
Apparently I am. Is there, apparently, am I mischaracterizing things as you understand it?
Maybe I could say it in different words.
Okay, your glasses look better than mine anyway, so
The eyes behind them.
be careful.
The district ordinances state what the fees are for new and for conversion ADUs. They do not say what a particular project is. They say fee or no fee, and if it's fee, it's proportional. That is the extent of the district's ordinances, because the district does not characterize a particular project as new or conversion. That is the duty of the permitting agency. We don't say a particular project is new or it's a conversion. We say, if it's new, this is the fees. If it's a conversion, this is the fees, which is zero. But we don't characterize a particular project as either one, because we are not building officials. If it takes, I'm curious how much time and effort and mental agony you have been through with all of this as an alternative to resubmitting to the county.
That goes back to answering the chair's questions. Why haven't I, right? The reason for that is that, and I explained this, but I'll explain this again. The sanitary district, the general manager's appeal came down in my favor, right? The minute the appeal came down in my favor, hired a contractor, right? Whom I have to pay. They're not going to wait forever for me to change my plans, right? So I've been put in, and I'm answering your question. So if you could do me the courtesy, right? The district put me in a position where they said I can go, and then they pulled the rug from under me. Now, in that time span, I hired my contractor who's ready to go. I had the contract ready. All I need to do is sign, right? And I had my permits that were now issued by the county, right? To go back and redo that. And again, I cannot stress enough, it would be exactly the same project, right? Without any change whatsoever, right? I'd have to pay another $5,000 or $6,000 to an architect to resubmit the project, right? Because they're not going to do it again for me. They done their job. They got me to permits, right? So that's one thing. The next thing is I signed a contract with my contractor, which contains a clause that we go or I have to pay them a retainer, right? So I've been put in a position where I'm either bleeding money on one side or having to pay you guys a fee that you already determined I didn't have to. Now, and I have a knee-jerk reaction to this because you're saying either I made a mistake or the county made a mistake, right? The plans, and I'll say this till I'm blue in my face, the plans that I submitted for my appeal with Scott, right? The one that I won, right, are the plans that were with the county. They were not different in any way, including the description. Like the description was on there. It's in your materials. The description was what the ADU was submitted with the county. I submitted that to you openly, and based on that information, I won my appeal, right? So you're saying the county made a mistake or I made a mistake? I'm sorry, but that is simply incorrect. To submit to the county as a conversion would cost me way more now than just to pay your fees. You put me in an untenable position. What I'm saying is there were mistakes made along the way. I'll be the first one to hold my hands up. I make mistakes in my job, in my life, whatever, right? Now this board needs to deal with that, right? And you're saying the building official determines what the conversion is. Fine. Your code doesn't say that. There's no staff policy that says that. When I asked the question in writing to staff, they did not tell me that. Now, if they told me that, I would change at the time when I asked and before I submitted to you, I would change my description with the county because my permits were open and I can change that. By the time the appeal came down, my permits were closed because the county said, we're done. You have your permits, you're ready to go. All you got to do is submit those letters, right? What that means is, had I been told before, when I asked openly and in writing, what you guys determine a conversion, had I been told, we think a conversion is whatever the building official says it is, I would have simply changed that description. We would not be here. You refused, staff refused to tell me that. Why? What, like, why would I not be told that? If I was told that, I would have amended it. None of us would be here. So the failure, I'm very sorry, Chair, but the failure is on the district's part. And that is fine. We fail all the time, you know? And the good thing is now we get to do a little bit better and tidy things up. Your code speaks to a conversion. It does not say conversion is what the building official of whatever so-and-so defines as a conversion, right? It just says if it's a conversion, you get lesser fees. And I, as someone who lives here, have the right to ask what it is that you think a conversion is. And all you needed to say, all Allison needed to say is to me at the time, we take our cues from the building official. None of us would be here if it wasn't for that. That did not happen. That is a failure, not of the county, not of me, but of this district.
I actually, I have a, just so I can, for the record, you made a reference and it wasn't clear from either yourself or from Scott. You indicated that there was an approval and then it was retracted.
Correct?
Okay, and what was the basis for that?
For the retraction?
Yes.
The discrepancy between the semantics of what the permits are called between here and
Semantics or what was established on an approved set of plans and a permit?
I submitted the adequate plans for my appeal, the ones that specifically called it new ADU.
Was that basis, however, was that the basis, Scott, for the retraction?
The basis for the retraction was the notice from the building official that they explicitly permitted the project as new.
Yeah, okay, so that was right.
So yeah, there was opportunity for me to download information directly from the county.
And so, Mr. Cepak, then your question is, notwithstanding that parent sequence of events,
It's not parent, it's set in stone. It's what happened.
please allow me some latitude in my language because I have a tendency of moseying around a little bit, but I wind up coming to where I need to in due course. And if my words get picked apart, then we could be here for a lot longer.
We're here because of word discrepancies. I mean,
No, it's not word discrepancies, it's interpretations of words, okay? So I will take exception to your characterization on that particular instance. At this particular point, it was what was approved by the county, the initial submittal, and then as you termed it, a discrepancy between the new and conversion. You had a conversion from your perspective, and that yet the county approved new permit for new construction. Okay, is that fair?
I hesitate to answer. No, but go on.
Well, I'll take that as, reasonable. Okay, having said that, is it your understanding that the county of Ventura is the not only jurisdictional agency for permitting perspective, but it's also the custodian of records as far as construction documents?
As far as the plans,
Yes.
I mean,
That's what plans in the construction industry are also called construction documents.
same way as you are, yeah, you have mine too.
You answered a question I didn't ask. My question was, is it your understanding that the county of Ventura is not only the jurisdictional agency for the permit itself, the building permit, but is also the custodian of records for those construction documents?
I'm not sure how to answer that question.
Well, okay, because there seemed to be some concern about you not getting construction documents released by this agency. And I'm submitting to you that the county of Ventura is the custodian of documents. They're the ones who keep copies of construction plans because they're the permitting agency. What this agency gets, what OVSD gets, is somebody else's plans, someone's plans, an applicant's plans that have been reviewed and approved by some other public agency, a city, a county, et cetera. In some instances, a state, when it's the state HCD, for example, reviews and approves plans for mobile parks. Okay, very good. So having said that, I'm just trying to clarify something here because you've made a statement that indicated that you made a request of this agency of OVSD, the district, for copies of other documents, other projects. We're not the custodian of records. Did you make any inquiry about that?
I'm sorry, you're subject to the Public Records Request Act, so you have to release the documents that I ask unless you have a reason not to. It's non-material. Who's
So that we have them. They're not our issuance. They're not our plans.
I was
Someone else's plans.
You do.
Well,
I was told.
It seems to be you're kind of having to go at the district when there are other agencies, and in this instance, the county of Ventura seems to be the agency that has all of this information. The capacity to change from new construction characterization to conversion, they have that capacity.
So do you?
Then they also have your plans with the duly required stamps on them that indicates that they've gone through plan check and all of the necessary and planning review and everything. So at this particular point, why did you need, and they also are the same, for those reasons, there's the same agency that would have anyone else's plans. So since you've made it into a Public Records Act issue, I'm submitting that the correct agency, the county, not the district. But if you want to make it into a Public Records Act request issue, then obviously we'll have to respond to that separately.
I think we should not focus on that.
Having said, but that isn't the issue. That isn't the preeminent issue here that brings you before us for an appeal. Okay, well, then from my perspective, it's ancillary. So let's keep it on the point. The next thing is you use the term negligence and imputing it to the Ojai Valley Sanitary District staff. There's a difference in significant difference between negligence and a difference in opinion of interpretation of statute. Would you agree?
In this instance, I think it's negligence, but to go on and
You
on.
already said that. I asked you a different, once again, you answered a question I didn't ask.
Ask the question again.
The difference, the distinction between negligence and a difference in determination, difference in interpretation of a statute.
There was no interpretation of the statute, so I don't know what you're
Okay, well, I don't know what you're talking about now. We'll come back to something else. Now, what you also then move to, there is no legal justification for withdrawal of a will serve letter, that's prohibited. I don't think you've found, it's kind of hard to prove a nullity. When something doesn't address an issue in statutes and codes, that is what's called a gray area that usually is determined with the totality of circumstances by a court. In this instance, you're imputing illegality to the fact that the district or the general manager denied you something. Okay? The issue is not if he had subsequent information, and I believe I would gainsay any public agency that I know of, if they get subsequent information that renders the tendering of an entitlement that changes the circumstances under which that entitlement was tendered, they are going to retract it. Now, granted, there may be implications from that in this instance, because I'm going to say, watching it, because not all of the boxes were checked and not all of the options were exercised. We're having this conversation about this appeal when, as you've said yourself, if you resubmitted it to the county, it would all go away? Am I getting that right?
May I answer that? Yes, you're getting that right.
Then please.
May I answer that? So two things, right? Your code appears to be, and your counsel can advise you on that, appears to me permissive. What a permissive code is that what's in the code is allowed, what's not in the code is not allowed. That is the basis of that. Now, we'll move on to the other thing. I think we're misunderstanding each other here is because there was no new information. I think that's what this board.
You know, I disagree with that, notwithstanding our counsel. I disagree with that interpretation of permissiveness. That's code.
You could, maybe counsel can explain to me then what your, if it's not permissive, what it is. But let's go back to the other question, which is new information. Right? This is where I think I take most umbrage because I've said this so many times now, but the plans that the county approved were the plans that I gave you for my appeal, right? So there is no new information. The exact plans, not a version of the plans, not like some kind of different type of plan. The exact plans that I had approved with the county, I submitted for my general manager's appeal, right? That is not new information. That is exactly the same, right? So when a decision was made based on those plans, right? And then retracted based on the very, very same plans with no difference whatsoever, down to the description of the ADU, that is not new information. That is the exact information I gave you.
What changed?
Nothing changed. That's the whole point.
Okay, except the characterization from conversion.
No.
Original plans that you submitted said convert.
No.
Said new?
The plans I submitted for my appeal with Scott before he ruled my administrative appeal said new. They said new. And my plans with the county say new. And the plans I gave Scott said new. And based on those plans, the decision was made that I won my appeal. That's the whole point. I didn't change anything else. Nothing else changed.
It's not new.
What do you mean it's not new?
Well, it's not a new construction, right? According to you, it's a conversion.
Well, according to me, it should fit the definition of conversion, yes, but
you didn't say new.
Look, I'm answering your question. You don't like the answer. You said something changed, right? And you said
I asked if something changed.
nothing changed. That's the point I'm trying to make. The plans that I gave you were the stamped, approved plans, finished, finalized from the county that say new 200 square foot ADU. Based on those plans, I won my appeal. And I got my will serve letter that said I only owe you $1,000 in fees, right? So you had that information. You ruled based on that.
I'm not clear then what changed that resulted in the.
Please, Scott.
So, and I don't remember that I received the entire set of plans. I certainly remember that
Cover
we
page.
we received the
Along with
cover.
another plan that merited sending to you,
Correct.
correct?
There was a cover page that had,
Tell them what the cover page said.
it said it was new, and it was, in hindsight, going back and looking at it, it was the sheet that was approved by the county. That part is true.
Right.
But the other reality is the argument of why you were exempt was because it was a conversion. And so when I look back, I'm looking at it's Exhibit 13. So when I look back and look at my findings are, this is the exemption is because it's a conversion. And I have to admit it is new in one word up in the top corner. It's not a giant new across it. I am remiss in not seeing it in there, but it is in there. But the argument was that it was a conversion. And I still hold fast that without any further guidance, I don't know that I have the ability to overrule the county's determination of a new project and then magically turn it into a conversion.
So
If I'm going to make some kind of ruling, I need some guidance.
That's not a precedent you want to be setting.
Right, I'm gonna, right, and that's where it is. And so yes, Mr. CPAC it is the same set of plans, but it was permitted as new with the county. It was a new construction with the county. My exhibit 13 that's here that ruled in his favor is he was arguing that it was a conversion.
Well, yeah, no, I get that. I'm just gonna make one more comment and then I'll turn it over to anyone else who I'm sure is gonna have lots of questions. My experience, having done this a few times myself in my career, is it's incumbent upon the applicant or the applicant's architects, if they're the obtaining the entitlement and the permits, to qualify the project accurately with the permitting agency. Okay, so, and when that's not done, we have stuff like this. Anyone else?
I've got a bunch of questions.
Please do.
One is the simple one. It seems to me this issue of conversion or new, the plans as submitted have both words in it. Is that right? Somewhere in there, there's the word conversion.
They all say new.
Everything, every single line in the entire application to the county says new. Is that?
yes, and also the same plans that I submitted from my appeal also say new. They're exactly the same
The
plan.
question then is, I don't want to ask that question. Never mind. I just wanted to clarify that. So the next question is, what's the period that you're seeing? What is the current status? It seems to me from what you've described, you have constructed the ADU.
No, not yet.
So your choice then is now you're paying a retainer to a contractor.
No, we're in between. So Scott and I agreed that, and I appreciated that because I do think it sounds like maybe it's a departure from what the district does. Is Scott agreed that if I put up the payment, I can get a will serve letter and pursue an appeal, which is why we're here. So I'm at a stage where my rough plumbing's in, my slab is in, right?
And you started
Yeah,
construction.
and really what I'm asking for, and I hear you on the precedent, I really do, which is why you have this option of a variance, which doesn't set a precedent. And I don't understand why this district's so reluctant to say, look, we made a mistake. It's fine. The plans I gave you are exactly the plans, calling it new. Someone made a mistake. Someone else refused to clarify certain things to me, but I hear that's just not.
Can I put my 2 cents in?
Yeah,
Sure, yeah,
Go
because
ahead.
I'm still talking.
Okay.
Later. So it seems to me you're in a position where you've started construction. You've given us a check for $7,000, which
It's another 4,000, yes, 8 altogether.
if there were no issues, you'd be clear to go with us and the county, right?
I'm clear to go right now, but
You don't want to pay $7,000 to us and you don't want to have to re-permit anything with the county because that costs a lot of money.
yes.
Takes a lot of time and you've already started construction. So I'm just trying to figure out into what Scott was saying. There's some issues here that squirrely in my mind still, but the 7,000 that you paid, did he have the option of extending that this 5, 10, 15-year thing?
Yes.
But you chose to pay it all up front.
Yes, I mean, I have a choice one way or the other.
The thing I'm getting to is if we need to, for some reason, continue this, would it be acceptable to you for us to give you back the $7,000 check and instead sign an agreement that you'll pay this over 15 years? And so the initial payments, $500 or whatever it works out to. And in the meantime, we work out, assuming we need to, what exactly the rules are around this so that we're certain we're doing this right. In other words, can we free up a bunch of your money so that you can proceed, not have to go through a whole new permitting process, And in the meantime, we can sort out all the issues that you've brought up and some that I'm seeing right now. As kind of a middle ground, if you will, that would free up and here's what's bothering me right now. In the state, there's 66324. It says under 66324B, accessory dwelling unit, doesn't say conversion, doesn't say attached, detached, any of that. Just says an accessory dwelling unit shall not be considered by a local agency, special district, or water corporation to be a new residential use for purposes of calculating connection fees or capacity charges for utilities, including water and sewer service, unless the accessory dwelling unit was constructed with a new single-family dwelling, which this one was not.
My home's built in
So
1960.
that tells me, I don't know what that means to us. And then it says, below that, part C, the district shall not impose any impact fee if it's less than 750 feet. But it also goes on to say, any impact fees charged for accessory dwelling of 750 feet or more shall be charged proportionally. But for the purposes of this subdivision, impact fee has the same meaning term as fee is defined in section 66,000, whatever. But impact fee does not include any connection fee or capacity charge charged by local agents, special district. In other words, I think we have the right to charge connection fee, except in the instance where the ADU is attached or a conversion. If it's new, we clearly have the ability, and you've mentioned that before. In one case, it's 0, in the other, it's whatever we decide it can be. But then we have this 6634B that says you cannot consider that a new residential use for purposes of calculating connection fees. So that to me is contradictory.
So I welcome the district looking into it. I really do. And you should do it because I don't think
we'll do it.
I don't think this will go away. But look, I agree with the with the chair that like I'm not here to argue state law right now. Right? That's not the point. And I do appreciate you coming up with a solution to try and free up some of my capital. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. That is not necessary. Although I do welcome you looking into it and agreeing that if you do in fact come up with something in state law that precludes you from charging these fees, I would welcome the return of that $7,000 any day of the week. What I'm really here to show, because look, I can't schedule a hearing for a variance. I asked how I get a variance. I can't schedule a public hearing for this, right? I scheduled this appeal with the hope that I can appeal to you guys as sensible people, right? If it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, why don't we just call it a duck, right? I clearly see that there's some pushback on that. You know, we can probably be here for hours on end and go back and forth on this. I understand that, right? The point I'm trying to make is that your code allows you to make a decision in certain circumstances, and this says specifically where special circumstances make it reasonable to do so. Now, I have transparently provided my project details to this district. I have provided the plans that are approved by the county with the exact same descriptors, not different plans, the exact same plans that call it what it is, right? Or what I submitted it as to the county. I could go back and repermit. I'm not going to do that, right? I'm already in construction. That ship sailed, right? I can't do that. I can't reopen these plans.
Hey, excuse me, I disagree with that.
Okay.
And also I disagree with the characterization that re-permitting it with the county is going to cost a lot of money. And my third question actually is, where's the architect in this?
Why do we need the architect for?
Well, the architect, according to your testimony earlier, is the architect obtained the entitlements for you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, well, it's the architect's job, and this is my experience from having worked with lots of architects, it's if they take that upon as the scope of work under contract, then they have to deliver what the expectations of the client are. Your expectations were that they should be delivering you entitlements that will allow you to obtain the necessary waivers from the district. So for a conversion, seems pretty straightforward.
So
where's the architect in this?
first and foremost, I was mid-sentence. It's I extend you the grace of finishing your sentences. Please do the same for me, right? Second of all, the contract between me and my architect is a contract between me and my architect, not between the board, and it shall remain this way. The will serve is for the property, not for the architect. I do not want to argue this. I want to go back to what I was saying, which is your code allows in special circumstances to grant a variance. Now, this district made a mistake, and Scott, please just have the staff admit that they made a mistake.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Interrupt, I'd like to ask.
Absolutely.
A general question of our attorney. This is supposed to work, we're a deliberating body. We're not supposed to be involved in meeting. We're supposed to ask questions at this point. Then we close the public hearing. Then we have deliberations amongst ourselves. I don't think there's anything in the hearing process that really requires us to have a debate directly with the applicant.
No, you don't have to debate back and forth. To the extent there's questions going back and forth that, you know, and you want to characterize that as debate or question and answer, the latter is certainly allowed. I kind of felt that's. So I'll comment real briefly just on the statutes here and the regulations. So the district does our OVSD 82 refers to a conversion, doesn't define a conversion. State ADU law does not reference conversions. It talks about an ADU built within the existing space of dwelling or accessory structure and may include an expansion of 150 feet. So that's kind of quote unquote a conversion, right?
Quote unquote.
So
It's been consistent
in our OVSD 82, it doesn't define conversion. It also doesn't say that we're bound by the county or city expressly. It doesn't say that. So, you know, I think there probably is some discretion. There's circumstances warrant that you could go off on your own. I think Scott probably appropriately said, hey, that's not for me to decide. I'm going by deferring to these other agencies. If they call it new construction, that's what I'm going to rule on. If the board wants to go beyond that, they can do it under their OVSD 82. They could also, as you said, do a
918 variance.
variance.
It's, I think, more palatable to everyone.
regards Scott, you know, you've mentioned several times that the plans call it new all throughout.
Including for,
Conversion in there at all. And yet Scott, when he talks about it, says that you were promoting it conversion. Well, was that written or just verbal?
The answer is it's a little bit of both. So the first set of plans that we received was for new. It was not the same set of plans that is currently approved from the county. The second set of plans that we received was for a conversion. And the argument was for, hey, I'd like to make this a conversion. The third set of plans that we received were the approved set of plans currently from the county, which show it as new, but the argument was that it was a conversion, that it's ostensibly a conversion. And so when I went out, and so one of the important things what's important to have a conversion is that you must have a structure. My understanding.
I have a question. Does the county approve the second set of plans?
It said conversion. County has never seen something.
No, the county approved the set of plans that say new.
which is the set that I submitted for my appeal, which then I subsequently won. So
Where did the set of plans that say conversion instead of new come from?
So I can explain that. I submitted my first plans as new. There was no incentive to go this way or that way. It was non-material for my project. I knew as an ADU specialist, I'd get it approved this way or that way. There was no point in calling it one thing or another over. So we just chose to go with new, right? It is within the footprint, as council advised, within an existing structure, and the expansion of the existing structure is no more than the 150 square feet, which Scott will agree to, right? We both agreed to that. He visited the site. We agreed on the existing structure. When the fees came back, I I called the district and I spoke to Allison and I say, hey, these fees appear very high to me. And I was advised that the only way I could not pay those fees is if it is a conversion. Now, since the conversion as council
So
advised,
you altered the plans,
no, the plans remain the same. All that changed.
you altered the totality of the plans by changing new to conversion
That is correct. On advice from staff.
on advice from staff?
I asked staff over the phone, I asked, what is the definition of conversion? Is it as simple as just, as long as it meets the government code, is it as simple as for me to change the descriptor on the plans? And I was told, and this is a quote, just go ahead and submit that, I will review it, right? And then a decision came down, but it still didn't meet the conversion. And I can't stress enough, the plans, the actual plans themselves, right? The building, the structure, where it is, the size of it, all that stuff, consistently the same, right?
That's never been debated here.
Yes. So then
I started with a set of plans approved by the county.
no, that's where we ended. Because I can't get so when I submit to the district, I also submit to the county that the track that these two are on is sort of running at the same time, right? So what I submitted that was finally approved by the county was what I submitted for the sake of my appeal with Scott.
Appeal.
That's correct, yes, and that adequately described what the project is.
If you took a set of plans that were approved by the county that said new ADU, and you changed them
No,
to say conversion.
no, that's not
So
what.
there was never a set of plans that
There
said,
was a set of plans, they were not approved by the county at the time. Because the approval wasn't done, because those two things happen at the same time. So there's no way for me to permit my ADU without your guys' blessing, right?
so you asked the county to approve approve a new ADU,
Uh-huh.
and you asked the district to approve a conversion.
I asked what the definition of conversion is. I was told
Asked the district to approve a conversion.
within the definition of state law that your council advised you of. Yes, in terms of within the existing structure.
So you asked the county for one thing, and you asked the district for something different.
When I asked the district, I asked the district what they would consider a conversion. And at that time, I was at liberty to change that with the county. The district did refuse to tell me that what is a conversion is what the building official determines, right? The district clearly knew that because Scott told me that after I won my appeal. I don't see why this was not information I was given at the time of submittal to the county. That's my problem. It's like, if I had that information, I would have amended the plans with the county and called it a day. Now, I asked staff here, what does it take? Do I just, since it meets the government code definition of conversion, would you like me to just call it a conversion? And I was told, just go ahead and submit that and I will review it, right? So I did exactly that, but I did so with the statement that I read out to you, right? Which clearly said, what is it that I'm actually doing? That statement went with the reapplication. It was in the email from my architect. I drafted that statement. I said, put it in there because I don't want to make it sound like I'm trying to get one thing here, but the other thing there. I put a statement in there saying, this is what I'm doing. That led to the approved plans, which led to me winning the appeal with the approved plans that were stamped by the county that are calling it new. These to me are the circumstances that your ordinance allows for a variance could address, right? There's circumstances here that are a little bit extenuating, right? I could have been given information that I could have used to change my plans with the county, not the plans, but just the description, right? And none of us would be here. I was told you don't need to tell me what you consider a conversion. This is in the email that was submitted to you, right? So now we're here, and I believe we have special circumstances that make it reasonable to do so for you to grant me a variance. I understand you're probably not going to grant me the appeal. I wouldn't want to set that precedent either, to be perfectly honest with you, right? Because the next guy can come and try and do the same, right? But the variance doesn't do that. Your attorney, your counsel advised you that it's within your power to do that under the ordinance. Since I've been failed a little bit here, and I wasn't given the full picture, by staff here, right? We're in this right now together, right? All I ask is if you see the circumstances and just for once, do the right thing, grant the variance.
The variance granted before, or after the county's final set of plans were.
I think it's the appeal. The appeal was granted after the plans were approved and with the approved plans. The variance, we have not gone down. The variance is what I'm asking for right
Use
now.
the wrong word, okay. So. So because there was an appeal, that implies that it was ruled new in the first place. These were calculated, charged. You questioned whether the fees were high or not. You then asked for an appeal, which Scott looked at and apparently approved
Correct,
based on the plans that were actually approved by the county.
correct.
Then
The day after.
later decided, having looked at it, that even though the plans approved by the county said new, apparently wasn't recognized when the appeal was granted, and so we reversed the appeal.
That is correct. And that put me in my bind where in that space of time, I committed to my contractors, right? I committed to construction, right? And now I'm sitting there paying a retainer fee for potentially 12 weeks, right? When I'm having to redo my plans, which also will cost me $5,000 with my architect.
It strikes me that you don't have to redo your plans. You've
Well-
got permits to proceed.
No.
You paid the fee to us. You could build the thing.
Yes,
The question is whether you get refunded all or part,
that is
some part of that
yes.
7,000.
Yes.
So there's no need to continue spending unnecessary money because you have approved permits. What we would normally require if it were new. So the question now is, we're just fussing about the
So I
7,000,
agree with you.
whether it should be reduced or not, but you're not going to stop with.
No, and I agree with you. And the only reason we started talking about this is because the chair asked me what precludes me from reapplying to the county to change the qualifier. And I'm explaining what precludes me is the thousands of dollars and weeks, months of delay. So that's my answer.
There's no need to do that.
I
All right.
If you weren't fussy about, and I can understand fussiness, don't let me minimize that, but if you didn't have concerns about the 7,000, you would be free to continue constructing your ADU. You have all the permits you need. You have the connection fee will serve from us. You've paid us. And so you can continue on and then rent it whenever it's finished. So that could happen.
yes, my
You'd like to get some portion, if not all of that 7,000 back, based on the idea it's a conversion rather than new construction. And so what I'm having trouble with is, in my world, when I went through building these rules with everybody, you know, clearly if it's a detached within all that, there's no fees.
Mhm.
You agree with that? Scott agrees with that. We all agree with it. If it's new, there's fees. And so the question is, in my mind, it's just a question of you know, do we have some obligation to reverse the fees because of our retraction of an appeal?
and because of the refusal to point me in the direction of like,
There's all kinds of resources for that. Allison may have given you some snotty answer, maybe not.
but she did it.
There's all kinds of, you know, there's state rules, there's county rules, all of that stuff's available. And as you said, the architect could look that up for you too. Your world didn't depend on Allison.
I worked it out because I understand staying.
You didn't agree with her answer and you worked it out. I mean, that's not uncommon, but there were other resources to come to the conclusion about.
There still are ultimately other resources to
Well-
resolve it.
Did you ever ask the
I'm struggling with.
county building official what the definition of a conversion was?
I agree with your counsel. I that's what it is. And that's why what I'm saying is,
You agree with council, that's what it is.
yeah, which is what counsel explained what a conversion is, which is,
Can I answer that question? What a
ahead.
conversion is? A conversion is an existing building that's changed from the use and it's gonna be for habitation. That's the conversion. And I wonder if he showed the county that picture of what he was going to convert to call for a conversion to the county. And did
See,
he
I-
ever have a county inspector come up and look and see what he was calling a conversion?
I,
He never called it a conversion with the county, Jack. That's part of it.
Yes.
because they don't grant me the books.
That's what the problem is. The problem is the county never came out and looked and see what he was going to convert. Because they would they wouldn't pass that as a conversion. Conversion
I
is
was-
an existing building.
As I was
Like a-
reading the
like a
rules today,
garage
there's
or
a
something
difference
like that.
between, there's a difference between existing attached versus existing detached. As I understand it, this is a detached carport,
Correct.
was demoed and then built and planned to be built as an ADU, right?
So
So
the,
there was a demolition involved,
a
right?
portion of it, yeah. So the
And so when I read the rules today, as I go through what I can find in the state, there's no definition of if existing structure, whether it's a garage or a carport or, you know, greenhouse, whatever it is, there's no definition of if you demo an existing structure, replace it with an ADU, there's no definition of whether that's considered new or conversion. I cannot find anything in the state regs that define that.
so the
So
close.
that's why I'm having trouble, seeking a variance. I'm with Scott. I don't have the data to make a decision on it. Because the rules to me in the state and ours are not only occasionally in conflict, but they're incomplete. They're silent on this issue.
Well,
So that's what I would like to do is figure, and that's why I was offering you the opportunity, maybe we could stretch it out so that you're not out money until we get that resolved. But
We have to make a decision today based on the evidence that's been presented to us.
no, we don't have to make a decision. We can vote to
Continue
continue
the case.
So here's my, if I may, I agree with you. It's murky, right? And your counsel read out the nearest thing to the definition of what a conversion is in state law, which is within the existing structure, within the footprint of the existing structure, plus no more than additional 150 square feet.
It can also be attached,
Right.
not only within, but attached.
Yeah, of course, yes. But in this instance,
To clarify, it doesn't say footprint, it says within the
okay, within the
existing space.
within the existing, right? So I have a structure that's existing, that is, a structure that's established on the property. My project is not adding more than 150 square foot to that structure, right? Therefore, functionally, I believe it meets that definition. Will I love it if the state defined it more robustly? Yes. Will I love it if the district defined it more robustly? Even more so, and that's important because if the district speaks to conversions in its code, the district ought to either define it or defer to another piece of government code, right? And that, I think that's fair. Neither is what happened, right? And when I saw clarification, that clarification I know now was available because Scott had told me after he ruled on my appeal and after I won my appeal, that actually what the definition is whatever the building official says. My argument is that if you arm the applicants ahead of time with that information, they can make better, more informed decisions when they submit to the county and when they submit to you. I am 100% certain that if I was to take this project and resubmit it to the county and as is, same plans, but call it a conversion, they would allow it without batting an eye, right? What I'm asking you to do is understand that is the case, right? And understand that there was some failures along the way that amount to those extenuating circumstances that your variance ordinance allows for, that you grant the variance, right? The simple fact is, if I knew it from the get-go, and it's your rules, not anyone else's, I can't go to government code and find out what Ojai Valley Sanitary District considers a conversion, right? Because you have it in your ordinance, so like I can't go anywhere else for that answer. If I was only just told, that's all I'm saying. If you guys just being transparent with me, that would have we wouldn't be here, you know? And notwithstanding anything else, this district made a decision based on the plans that are approved with the county that call it what it is. And now you're reversing that decision despite the fact that there was no material difference in anything. Not in calling it what it is, not in any locations of buildings, nothing of that nature. I had submitted everything clearly. I had won my appeal. And the day after, I was told, actually, we're sorry. You no longer benefit from this decision. And at no point, anyone yet has come forward and said, look, we're sorry, we made a mistake in looking at this. I didn't notice, or we should have told you ahead of time. I think that's failing your customers. I don't understand why you're unwilling to admit that.
The reason I would be unwilling is because as I read the rules today, it's not clear to me whether that's considered a conversion.
It was at
The
some
county
point.
may write in their plat, you may write in the county's permit that this is a conversion. That doesn't mean that, and they may even approve that, but that doesn't mean it matches the definition of conversion as far as ADUs are concerned that we have to abide by as a district.
You can.
They may approve it as a new palace. And we still can't use that in our determination.
You should and look,
And
you're
I
making my
agree
point.
that we should figure out what our rules really, what the state rules really are, and make sure that our rules are consistent with the state rules. And as I see it, the state rules are very silent on the issue. If there's a demolition of an existing structure and a new ADU is, they say replaces that structure, it's not, they don't say anything about whether that's considered new or conversion.
And I go.
New and conversion may be semantics, but it dictates how we determine our fees.
So I go
So
back
it's
to
not just semantics.
I go back to your council's advice, which was this board, in the absence of a very robust definition, which I agree is absent, right, has the ability to control that and say what it is and what it isn't. So you have the ability. I don't understand why you're unwilling to exercise it. At this point in time, you've been advised you can make that decision, right? Until you come up with your own definition, right? That meets state law, of course. We all have to do that. Or until the state defines it better or worse, we are where we are, right? And since your code speaks to conversions and it does not reference any other government code or anything else, any other like the local building officials or anything like that, you have the ability to determine that. Now, is there a universe where like the county doesn't call it a conversion and you do? Yeah, because you can have your own different understanding of what it is, because there could be more than one definition, and that's all there is to it.
So what I've said is I'm unwilling because we don't have clear guidance on whether this is truly a conversion. Our purposes are new. Beyond that, we could establish a variance. And that establishes a precedent. And I'm unwilling to establish a precedent for the variances until we have clear definitions of what circumstances represent, whether they're an ADU that's new or an ADU that's a conversion, and how then does that affect our legal ability to imply fees on them? So again, we can continue this. We don't have to make a determination. Well, I've offered a suggestion as how if we do continue it, it would free up a whole bunch of your money. You've said you don't really need that, which is fine. I don't.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I appreciate it.
And so my position right now in settling it as, I'm unwilling to grant a variance because I don't know what the rule is.
Right. So,
But also, and I've been hearing this for years here, district is not a land use agency. The county of Ventura is. The city of Ojai is.
Like I said, I don't care what the county calls it. We have to go by the state rules on ADUs, so whether we can charge fees or not.
Well, no, saying you don't care about it is a little disingenuous because we're not land use agency. So where are you going to get where are you going to get the information from?
We've got definitions per the state rules about ADUs as to what's considered
Then you have to
conversion or not, for
Okay.
some things. For this one, we don't have a clear rule about.
I don't see that being clarified by anybody but a land use agency.
I disagree.
And I
Land
think-
use agencies don't establish rules for ADUs and whether you can charge capacity fees or not.
No, the first part they do, I disagree. The first part they do, land use agencies do promulgate rules for ADUs. City of Ojai has, County of Ventura has. They don't,
State tells us whether we can charge
that's
capacity fees. or not.
that's a separate and adjunct operation.
Well, but that's what he's concerned. He's not
Yeah,
concerned about
but
the
I-
permits. He's
I'm-
concerned about
Would
the.
bring this back to the same place. The county's got to tell him whether it's new or conversion. The county is the land use agency.
I don't know that the land use agency's definitions are in.
It doesn't matter.
Or not.
It doesn't matter because then the beef that he will have is with that agency since that's the land use agency.
I see what you're saying,
Okay?
but I also don't think the
No,
county
I'm
necessarily.
rejecting the imputation that this entire kerfuffle, I'm feeling no disrespect for it, but it does have a lot of dimensions to it that you introduced, okay, that are not strictly factual. So the bottom line on this is we're talking about this because he didn't get the permit that he needed to bring to us. If he'd gotten the permit that he says he needed, which is one that says a conversion, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be being asked for a variation. We wouldn't be having appeals.
Maybe very well true.
You answered-
Sounds to me like in one case, the permit did say conversion and the next permit said new. So I don't know why it changed.
But there, once again, the
Are we
counties.
deliberating now?
That's what I was gonna say. It's like we're deliberating now.
Right, I'm just bringing up a
Finish
different
that.
aspect to the comment. Now, if that's a deliberation, then I stand back from it.
Let's finish with the questions and then we'll go to deliberations. That's my suggestion.
All right?
I think I'm through asking questions.
I'm through.
If it's appropriate, I would
Soaking it all in.
like to read a final statement and then allow you to deliberate.
Absolutely, please.
Okay, so the statement I prepared in somewhat in anger, but let's do this. And I do appreciate if you let me finish. So I was here on October 27th. I gave a public comment on another matter relating to ADU fees, right? And I observed the public hearing here on the 27th. Now, there was a deliberation about paying fees and doing things properly and following the rules, right? And I couldn't help but notice that one of the directors here, Pulsi, I don't know if I'm mispronouncing that name, stated that when you had, in addition to your house, you had to pay the fees, right? And you had to have your sewer line inspected. You also stated that you had a local district employee scope your sewer line. Now, me as a customer, and this is on record, so you can watch the YouTube video. Me as a customer, I had relined my sewer line per the district policies. I had to use a plumber that I paid to. Now,
Reline your district.
no. This basically what I heard from you was an employee did that for you, where me as a customer had to pay a fee for that, right? That is
Misinterpretation there.
No, it's in there, but don't worry about it. It's on video, so we have a record of it. Number two, for making the decision, right? Director Martinson, on the other appeal that you had on October 27th, asked the question: what if you were doing 7 ADUs? Would we still exempt you from the fee? Now, council will advise you that when making decisions, you have to make them on the merits of that proposal, not on a figment of your imagination. 7 ADUs were not proposed. Number three, I petitioned this district to observe SB 937. SB 937 is a piece of government code that allows certain projects to defer all fees, including capacity fees, to certificate of occupancy. One of these projects that are defined are small projects under 10 units. My project is under 10 units. I was told by the district that they will not follow that law. That is state law. It exists. It is written, right? Public Records Request Act, I believe you're in violation of, right? We're going to do that too, right? Now, we talked already about the code that you quoted at me, fobbing me off with Public Records Request Act. Staff refused to point to a government code, state code, based upon which you're not releasing my plans, the ones for the public records, right? So these are all four things that we're gonna pursue separately. You have your vote. You wanna keep my money, keep it. I'll go to battle another way. Thank you.
No, close the hearing.
Yeah, anything else from anybody before I close? Okay, we're gonna close the appeal hearing at 7:45 and begin to deliberate. So.
I was holding it all in. Can I start?
Absolutely.
I'm sort of a contrarian, so maybe I'm not being the one that starts.
Do you have any, how about, let's ask Jack. He's been very patient. You have anything you want to start with, or observations or comment, or otherwise deliberate?
You talking to me?
I am.
Okay, he needs to go back to the county and get them to give us the plans showing a conversion. And we ought to ask the county to come out and check his property and show him have him show him what he's calling a conversion. Because it's not a conversion. It's a carport and a tool shed, small tool shed. But not even attached. And I think we ought to, we can't, he doesn't understand that this money goes in for his paying his share into the treatment plant, his capacity in the trunk lines, everything that the people have paid on for the last 50 years, he's paying in as they paid in 50 years ago.
Okay. Next.
Take it.
Relicy?
I have a couple of points to, I think, to clarify here. First of all, Mr. CPAC said that I had a district employee doing something for me. At that meeting, what I stated was, when I did a remodel on my house, that was a triggering event, required me to have my sewer lateral inspected. It was inspected. I paid the $75. Travis came out, did it, told me it looked clean. I did not have an employee do something for me. And I resent the implication that as a member of the board, I could even have that done. Would not do it, and I did not do it. I'm sorry?
Sir.
Second, what I see here is a man who made a mistake in putting in, or his ad architect, I'm not sure, made a mistake in putting in request for building permits with the county. Whether the applicant needs to ask the county, is this new or is this a conversion? Or the applicant's architect ought to already know, is this a new building or is this a conversion of an ADU? In either case, the paperwork that went forward was apparently incorrect. But I don't know that for sure. What I know is what it said. It said new. And our district does not rule on whether something is a conversion or is not. It just says if it is or is not, here is the consequence of the fees to be paid. Don't make that decision sorry that nobody apparently has a good definition in writing for that. But that's where it is.
It's understood.
Third, I believe I heard the applicant say we didn't add anything to the load on the system. I'm not trying to quote him, but simply to say, I believe this was the gist of his words. He has a bedroom, one bath house. He's adding a 2-bedroom, 1-bath ADU.
Not studio 200 square feet. Don't even understand the project. How can you make a decision?
If there are no drainage fixture units in the new building that he is putting up, then there is no addition to the load on the system. If there are drainage fixture units in the new building that is being constructed, then there is by definition an added load on the capacity of the system. And we do that proportionally. We have the choice under state law, as I understand it, as we all read it years ago, we can either do this on square footage or on fixture units. Square footage never made any sense to us as we deliberated that, because one could add bedrooms endlessly to a residence without changing the number of sinks, toilets, showers, tubs, whatever. So it made sense to us to do proportional charges, capacity charges, not connection fees, capacity charges, proportional based on the fixture. Okay. I believe from what I have heard tonight, that is what we did. And yes, there was some confusion over whether or not this looked like, sounded like a conversion, but paper says it's not. And so I am unwilling to say it is, period. Thank you, sir.
So I acknowledge I'm a bit of a contrarian. This issue to me is very complex, and I've changed my mind a couple times on it. I want to explain my vote, where I'm leaning. I'm not trying to persuade any of you guys to change your votes. I'm not going to try and place blame with everybody. We all seem to be focused on blame. I expect myself to end up at the wrong end of a 1-6 vote. But in my comments, I'd like to make my comments without prejudice on, to establish any kind of precedence. I think the situation we have before us is kind of one of a kind. As a minimum, I think we're probably going to end up making at least some clarifications to one of our ordinances. To me, this whole issue hinges on, does his ADU qualify as a conversion? That's the main issue. I'm not, everything else I'm putting off to the side. Or does it not qualify as a conversion? We have a December 1 letter in the board packet from Scott, because he had a site visit. He saw the 3 posts where the carport stood. He saw the beams and more posts. He saw the carport in the shed or the remains of it. He saw the oak tree with the metal brace where it had fallen down and hit the carport or whatever. There was a structure there of some kind. And so he made a preliminary ruling that the project is exempt from capacity fees because it was a conversion. There was an existing structure there. And I think the state law was intended to convince people to take structures that they have, convert them for whatever they used to be used for, and put people there because we have a housing shortage. I think that was the intent of state law. And Scott's letter also included a warning. It said, we need county approval of the conversion. So it said the whole preliminary ruling was based on that being a conversion. So we sent mixed signals in that letter. Scott's ruling was not based entirely on facts because the Ventura County permit was for a new facility. The applicant asked our staff, as we went over and over, he asked them a simple question: what is a conversion? The answer he got back was, we're not required to provide that information. He also added, by the way, the board is all knowing. I don't feel like I'm particularly omniscient. We were all knowing when we passed the ordinance. I'm exaggerating a bit here for brevity. I don't feel like I'm omniscient. So the applicant asked the county guy, and his contact with the county, what is a conversion? The answer he got from the county was, we apply, pay another few $1,000, repay all your fees, and you'll find out. The county didn't have a good answer for it. I've heard tonight anyway. So my view is that we, as a district, public agency, work for our customers, and understand and be able to explain the terms we use in our ordinances. As a minimum, we should have a warning to our customers. By the way, if you want to save $7,000, send this to the county with the word conversion on it. And so me, there's two possibilities, two possible outcomes here. Number one, arguing semantics. And the applicant could have gone to the county with his plans and gotten a permit for conversion project. And based on Scott's letter and the fact that one of the things that was mentioned in the board packet that we didn't talk about today was there were 3 projects were very similar. Carports were converted into ADUs and we ended the exemption. That's what we interpreted the law at the time. So if indeed the applicant, it doesn't matter, all this other stuff doesn't matter. If the applicant could have gotten the permit, if he had used the word conversion instead of new, we should give him the benefit of having a conversion. And if the second option is, we can sit here today and say, there's absolutely no way it's a conversion because there was no, whatever reason we didn't have any evidence presented today about this. But the other option is we say, no way it's a conversion. Then it's easy to decide. We have to reject his opinion. But that contradicts Scott's preliminary ruling, because Scott's preliminary ruling and the discussions we've had here tonight are that it does meet some of our requirements that we've had in the past for conversions. Now, the county themselves is a bureaucracy. They're very rule-based. I know those folks over there. They're very rules-based. So the county must have a definition somewhere. We have no evidence today of what being presented to us. The app customer cited a couple rulings where it's provided, but I haven't seen anything in front of me today. So I have no evidence before me today whether or not it's a matter of semantics, whether he could have gotten conversion or not. I believe he could have. In the case of us making errors and omissions, I think we have to favor the customer. My vote is to grant his appeal. Oh, sorry, Scott, I know that sounds like I'm voting against our own ordinance, and maybe in a way I am. How does that affect our customers? Look at the big picture. The entire lot is 3,600 square feet. That's the whole lot. Primary residence is 900 square feet. The ADU is 200 square feet. It's 1,100 square feet of livable area. That's probably combined. One person's going to live in that. That's a very small ADU. I like his plans. I like to go through the plans because I want to make a like that for my son at our house. But it's very small, and between one person living there and a couple people living in the in-house, it's not gonna have any more demand on the water system than any of our other customers who paid $16,000. So, and I know I'm not gonna be able to convert anybody here, but I'm, leaning towards, granting the appeal.
So you would make,
Period.
well.
Variance, just grant him his appeal.
Well, no, but, no, not a variance, that's a precedent. Interpretation is the precedent.
Well, not if we,
He's not asking for an appeal, he's asking for a variance.
thought he was,
He's appealed. He's
Appealing a
appealed. the decision.
determination.
he's willing to get less, he's willing to get less than the variance. I'm willing to grant him the appeal.
Granting the appeal then is,
That's the question before us. Do we grant the appeal or not?
yeah.
Well, I mean, for anyone to be able to use that as a precedent, they have to have,
Just to clarify, he's bringing both. He's appealing and he's also seeking a variance at the same time. So you could rule on either. So the variance is there's special circumstances that
Granting the appeal is tantamount, not tantamount, is a precedent.
we're saying that's without. Just make a statement when we adopt the resolution or whatever, it is without prejudice.
Well, you've got two in the agenda, and that's, so you're looking at a third one, isn't in the agenda.
there's special circumstances that you want to treat his case maybe a little differently. I would think the variance is more framed for this sort of decision.
Okay, so I could support it. Everybody's happy and we can all go home with smiles on our faces and shake hands. I'm okay with a variance.
So
Mr. Chairman, I make
Yes.
a motion that we deny the appeal.
I need to make a motion because I haven't asked my questions.
We're gonna hold on to that, Jack, because Lowell has some additional comments,
So
questions.
We spent an hour and 45 minutes on this.
go back to sleep.
And the whole thing is, everybody's wanting to.
We have to do the
wanting to-
debate, deliberation, and if you want to bypass that, then that's not according to the rules of the board. Right now, we're having some deliberation. I'm still
You
in the
can have
middle.
the deliberation after a motion and a second is in place.
I want to hear.
I thought you brought up a very good point. Came up during the discussion and was not pursued, and that was that this board had approved our port conversions as being exempt from our capacity fees. So we brought it up, he mentioned it again, so did we or didn't we? You're gonna tell me no, he told me yes.
What I'm gonna say is, if those plans came to us and they were stamped by a land use authority as conversions, then we charge no fees.
And we would have to go look at those plans and ensure that that was the case. So my point is right now, until I've seen those plans and know what we did historically as a precedent, if you will, I'm unwilling to grant a variance. I'm unwilling to vote on any motion until I have the data that I need to make that decision. If we have granted these as no fee in the past, and they were in fact voted on their plan as a conversion, that's one thing. And I would go along with, in that case, saying, sorry, Charlie, you put it in as new. So my whole position isn't, and so I guess if we're gonna have a motion and vote, then I will abstain. I
So
can't vote on it because I don't have the information necessary to vote.
I feel the exact same way as Lowell.
not sufficient information to vote.
Personally, I don't have the.
I'd like to make an alternative motion. Since we've had a motion but no second, I'd like to make an alternative motion that we continue this case until the board has been able to verify or not verify that we are currently following our rules. Namely, that if a land use agency says it's a conversion, charge no fee. And if a land use agency says it's new, charge a fee. That would require all of us seeing some hard data. And so the motion is that we continue the case until we have that data and then deliberate full knowledge.
But that isn't our policy. Look at our ordinance, it doesn't say yes or no on conversions from a land use agency. That's what we're trying to implement now.
No, no.
Saying
Just
just.
saying that's the way we have
Some more
operated.
information.
We go by the decision of the land use agency. It's been that
That hasn't been our.
the 8 years that I've been on this. And it was, I believe, the basis for ordinance that we all passed. If we can verify we're following our rules, I say, fine, let's just abide by those rules unless we discover that there's something else in state law that says we're not following. It's going to take some time to figure out.
And that, I think you're right. I think that could actually take 2 or 3 months. Which
Yeah.
is why I suggested we could do something about the 5, 10, 15-year option.
It's always an option for an applicant.
At this point, it doesn't seem to be an issue for the applicant. So
Right.
if it takes us 2 or 3 months to get a resolution on this, to me, that's the big issue is the money in my mind. For that, he's not being held up with his construction. He's not paying other fees or retainers or new permits or all that. We do that, as I understand.
So would you like to second my motion to
I'll
continue
second the
the
motion
case?
until we have all the data.
Date uncertain. We don't know what
Set some dates for doing
the data.
Yeah.
The board will need
Are we
a
sure?
hard date to continue.
Yeah, we have to.
Can't be open.
We have to,
Really?
we should say, once we've established who's on the ordinance committee, the ordinance committee is being tasked with looking at this stuff and come to the board with a recommendation, just as most committee members do.
I'll add that to my motion and say regular, the next available ordinance committee meeting, consider, and the regular board meeting, say 4 months hence, if not before, consider the recommendation of the ordinance committee.
Maybe sometime in February to look at this. So that it doesn't drag out. That would,
Okay,
whoever we are, we don't know who's on the ordinance committee.
Okay.
That takes long and dragged out. Is the
Well, let's-
motion clear?
well,
I'll
first we had
listen to the recording.
a motion from Jack. Do you want to, see if there's a second, Jack?
What was his motion?
His motion was to deny the appeal. But I made an alternative motion, which we have to vote on before the original.
Alternative motion. Okay, there we go.
8 years on the planning commission, now 8 years here,
And you're probably going to assert Robert's rules,
or Rosenberg's, whichever.
which I don't believe this agency adopted either, so. Wait a minute, another gap. So, Allison, we have a
When are we
motion and a
voting?
second?
We're voting on his or
Yes.
My motion.
Yes.
that one?
Jack,
Okay.
does Jack know what we're voting on?
Okay, well, Jack, because we have alternative motion to yours, and
It has to be considered
it
first.
has to be considered first. And there's a second for it, so I'm gonna do that, yes?
The motion is to continue the case till we can sort out, one, the data that shows whether or not we're following the rules we say we are. And two, what the state law that might be affecting that might be.
Rolling.
Have the.
And that the ordinance committee will take the first look at it, and then the full board will take another look at it. Ordinance committee's recommendation.
My second.
I second.
We'll second it.
Director Curtis,
What do you want to know?
we're voting on the alternative motion made by Steve. He
Oh,
just-
the alternative, no.
Director Martinson,
Yes.
Director Kintosh,
No.
Director Quillisi,
Yes?
Director Reed,
Yes.
and Chair Coles. And Chair Ulrich.
Yes.
That's 4.
42.
Okay, so that places, what's the effect on Jack's motion? At this point, we don't. Second,
moved. Second.
it's
It's
moved.
moved, it's
Okay,
not
all right.
seconded.
All right, just wanted to confirm from the procedural basis. Okay. All right, do we, once again, that has to be carried forward to a date certain,
I think you had mentioned,
February?
First available committee meeting and regular board meeting not more than 4 months out.
That's what I heard.
that's what I heard.
Okay, and that's enough sufficient specificity? Okay, for a date certain, all right, there we go. Okay, so then we are at, it's funny you should mention it, election of officers and appointments of committee and board representatives, item number 10.
Okay, so it's this time of year again where we nominate and vote for our board positions. So that's chairman, vice chairman, secretary, and assistant secretary. So basically what I will do is I will ask for nominations for each position. If there's only one nomination, as long as somebody accepts, we move on to the next position. If there's multiple nominees, we will take a vote. One, we'll start with chairman. Do I have any nominees for chairman? Or anybody that wants to volunteer to be chairman? Okay.
Are you,
I am.
you nominate Bill? Because I've been, it was Steve for 2 years, Andy for 1 year. Randy's not here today. Bill Stone for 1 year, Bill for 1 year, so you can just go back and have Bill do it. He never got to finish his first year because he started late because Stone left. So- Oh, beautiful, okay.
So,
To make a long story short, I would.
There are nominees.
Speak at once.
Bill, do you accept?
I do.
We have no objection. Congratulations.
Yay.
That Randy Berg wasn't here for a reason.
You'd have nominated.
Still get nominated. Next position is vice chairman. Do we have any nominees or volunteers?
Everybody.
Here we go. I'll second that one.
You had to ask him if he'll actually. I'm sure he-
There's been many people that have been nominated while not here.
It's a kind of a.
It's kind of a.
Works, darn it.
Okay, so we'll assume that Randy is going to accept this. Are there any other nominations? Any opposition? Congratulations, Randy. You know by email tomorrow. Secretary.
ruin his Santa Ana concert.
Maybe I'll wait. Secretary, any nominations, any volunteers?
The present secretary is that guy.
Correct.
I nominate him. My idea of a secretary.
Accept.
I'm not, yes, I do.
Any other nominations?
As it
Any
should be.
nomination Going once? Nope. Okay, congratulations. Assistant Secretary, any nominations, any volunteers?
I nominate Reed.
I agree.
What's involved in this position?
You have to sign things. He's not around.
Except the secretary.
Have
signs
to
it.
attest.
It's
The
Mostly,
assistant secretary can also sign checks.
When I redo the signing card, yes.
It takes one of those two, one of these people sign every check. That's what this stack of paper over here was. Happens every meeting. Assistant secretary, you might have to do that. The chair and vice chair and secretary are not present or not able to sign checks.
if there's
That's
a,
ever happened.
on occasion, there's an emergency, somebody needs to come in and sign a check or two.
That's
and-
true.
And others may not be available. You may get called, you may not answer your phone.
He's pretty responsible.
What happens when you're a businessman?
Right.
Fantastic, congratulations. I think we're done with those positions. So am I correct in assuming that I'll send out an email having people, what committee they would like to be on?
Yeah, my inclination is just to roll those bad boys over, but I'll
You have that
I'll
discussion.
review that because of some of the expressed interest in the ordinance in
Sure.
particular committee.
Send you the list.
And we'll with that.
Yep.
Okay.
That item.
All right. Okay. Let's see here. Item 11, presentation from PFFM Asset Management, Ojai Valley Sanitary District Investment Portfolio Manager. So sorry you have been, hopefully you got some work done while you were waiting.
That was great to witness. So I'm happy to be here in the evening, and if it makes you feel better, I've been in quite a few wild meetings before, and that one was very interesting. So it's good to see local government, at work. It's
With no bloodshed, yeah.
yeah. So I always enjoyed it. With that being said, so I'm just gonna give a brief market update. I'll shorten it a little bit and then speak to the portfolio. And then Scott, if you have anything to add, and or if you have any questions, please feel free to ask at any point. If you turn to page 1 of the presentation, you'll see current market theme. So overarching story this past quarter is that despite the up and downs we've seen with the economy, it really has remained resilient. It's been supported by consumer and business spending, really driving and supporting growth despite the fact that we've had a government shutdown that created gap in data reporting. Unemployment trends have moved higher with net new job creations nearing zeros, yet despite official data availability. And the Fed has continued its easing cycle, lowering the target by additional 50 basis points this past quarter to 3.5, 3.75% range. Overall, the story as we start 2026 is really the Fed continuing that easing cycle despite or with changing dynamics within the Fed that we expect at some point this year. There is the expectations and the markets are priced in one cut for 2026, but a lot remains to be seen. We all know Fed Chair Powell's term is to end in May. A lot of people have been getting to raise their hand and say, I want to be the next Fed Chair, and the dynamics within there as well. If we go to the next page, I'll begin talking about CPI. So on the left-hand side, we're looking at CPI, and core CPI trends have been lowered. I do want to emphasize the fact that trend lower might be more driven in gaps on data collection, not necessarily reflecting the actual price pressures with which complicates the Fed's decision making. On the right-hand side, you see a table highlighting 3-month annualized inflation rates from September, which is really kind of the last time we've had clean data versus the full 2024 averages. Reading it through and through, you can see that short-term inflation pressures remain elevated for certain categories, even though we're seeing this trend on the right-hand side of easing inflation. Up to September, it really showed a different kind of story. Update in data will reveal more as data becomes more updated and more available. But again, this is kind of reinforcing the idea that the recent dip is not likely showing the full story. One thing I will share with the board, the Fed does meet this Wednesday and Thursday. So it'll be interesting to see if there is any update in terms of CPI and just in terms of inflation and the unemployment rate that we're currently seeing. On the next slide, we have the summary of economic projections. So you might have heard my predecessor or Richard Babby mention this a few times. But the Fed updates their summary of economic projections on a quarterly basis. Essentially, it's the Fed's individual policymakers sharing their projections for GDP, growth, inflation, unemployment, and the rate. Really just reflecting the most likely economic outcomes based on the data that they see today. So looking now at the graph, September is on the light columns and December is in the darker columns. A few highlights, GDP was revised higher across the board for the forecast, really signaling sort of a confidence in the economy or economic resilience. And then from an inflation perspective, long run inflation still remains anchored at 2%, but we're starting to see some progress towards this inflation. However, the Fed does remain cautious, particularly on the labor market side, of course, monitoring its inflation progress and things like that. One thing I haven't mentioned in this presentation is the Fed has its dual mandates, one with inflation and the other one with the unemployment rate, both remaining at odds, but that's really what they're focusing on for the latter part of 2025 and as we begin 2026. On the next slide, we have the Fed's dot plot. So on here, you see the 19 FOMC participants, both voting and non-voting, and their expected fund Fed rate to be in future years. Each dot represents each policymaker's individual projection. Gray line shows the September median projection, and December is the dotted line. As you can see, both lines are overlapping, meaning that the median path is unchanged. However, change from a viewpoint has become wider, as I've mentioned in previous quarters, or as has been mentioned in previous quarters. There is less agreement across the committee. However, there is agreement to continue that easing policy, but the path forward is less clear. It's becoming less clear. There is anticipation with the new chair that he might be a bit dovish, he or she. But remember, the chair is only one vote, and there is some cause for wide dispersion that could happen. But given the Fed's dual mandate, there might still remain at odds between the voting and the committee. So a lot more to be seen here. The following slide speaks to the U.S. Treasury curve. So sort of to wrap things up here in terms of the economy, the short-term end of the curve is coming down faster, and it's more in line with the Fed cuts as the overnight rate is acting as an anchor to this part of the curve. And we are starting to see this inversion as well. Total returns were mainly positive for the quarter. At the end of the quarter, you can see on there, the 2-year was at 3.47, 5-year was at 3.73. At the end of the market's closing today, the 2-year was at 3.59 and the 5-year was at 3.83. One thing I do want to comment, we had an economic meeting this morning with NPFM, and there was some discussion that we're starting to see the yield curve kind of flatten a bit in a sense. We're kind of remaining hinged in that 3.5 range, 3.8 between the 2 and the 5-year. So curious to see how that kind of plays out here in the next couple of months. I'll stop there in terms of the economy. Are there any questions or anything I can answer before I move on to the portfolio?
What are mortgage rates going to do?
Mortgage rates. So, great question. So in terms of mortgage rates, when the Fed traditionally cuts rates, mortgage rates tend to go higher, mainly because they base mortgage rates, or say the housing economy is based really in the 10-year. So anytime rates are being cut, the longer you go out, the higher the rate will be. There has been some drop in mortgage rates, mainly because the US just did issue a number of US Treasuries and mortgage-backed securities, which lower the rate a tad bit. But it's such a slight change in it. It's not something that's conclusive where I can stand up here and say, hey, mortgage rates are getting better. They will go a bit down, but not to the satisfaction of a lot of people.
Anyone else? Any other questions?
Awesome. So moving on to the portfolio. So on the portfolio snapshot page, that's page 9, you can see the portfolio for this past quarter. So total market value is 7.6. The pool has a high amount of the portfolio assets at 5.9 million. Yield at cost was at 2.07, yield at market 3.92. And the credit quality of the portfolio remains at AAA, which is extremely good. I do want to emphasize the fact that that AAA rating has a lot to do with the assets being in the CAMP pool. And the CAMP pool is yielding at 3.84%. So that 3.84% really applies to the pool amount that you see on there. That's 5,975,152. In terms of the duration distribution, a lot of the securities in the portfolio have begun to mature. So you can see on there a high degree of the duration distribution is really within that 0 to 1, 1 to 2 year space. Not a lot of securities are out past 2, 3, or 4, or 5. I do want to emphasize this fact. I know it was brought up the last time we presented to this board was that the Ojai Valley District portfolio was to the 1 to 5 benchmark, but it has not been managed to that benchmark for quite a while. Moving to the next slide, in terms of sector allocation, this slide just mainly here to show that, you know, everything that is invested is within policy, it's within code, nothing's out of whack, nothing's out of order. It just really gives you a layout of the amount that's invested in each sector. The gray lines just really represent kind of the limits from California code, but again, nothing is past that. Question.
We still on page 10?
Yes.
I asked the question of staff before the meeting, what is this joint powers authority? And I confess I did not understand, sir. My recollection is that in years past, we have been 50% or more in U.S. Treasury and federal agency notes. I don't know what's in the 78.2% now. Is there any U.S. Treasury notes in there? Federal agency notes? What is in there?
Okay. So there most likely is U.S. Treasuries and the securities you've mentioned. That JPA, what it actually represents is the CAMP pool, which stands for California Asset Management Program. CAMP operates.
Managing that.
So the advisor for CAMP is PFM. But CAMP is it's a separate pool. I am hesitant to use the word acts like a CD because we've used that before and it creates more confusion. But in a sense, that JPA or CAMP, because that's really what the name of it is, the yield is 3.84%. Now within CAMP, PFM is the investment advisor to CAMP, and within CAMP, there is a multitude of different sectors that the portfolio manager or the fund manager is using to manage those funds. And it acts like a liquidity vehicle for the district. Question.
So PFM is not directly managing our funds.
In the
Well, 78% of our funds.
right, yes and no.
Somebody at the state is managing 78% of our reserves, and PFM is advising that somebody, whoever it is.
No,
Do.
no. So I'll explain a little. I'll go slow by slow.
I'm really confused.
No, it's all good. So
I am.
it's okay. So the JPA, forget it says JPA, just cross it out and put on CAMP, California Asset Management Program. The California Asset Management Program The pool. It's a pool used for liquidity. The yield is 3.84%. The investment manager to camp, so the actual people behind the curtain making the trades and everything is PFMAM. We're still the investment advisor. We're the ones managing those assets, but it's in that pool. That makes sense before I continue. So it's not by the state.
Can you, maybe you should tell us what the duration is of camp, because I think at some point we're gonna talk about camp term.
Right.
So,
I've seen a lot of previous reports from PFM, and here's your stuff, and here's what's in the camp pool. And your stuff was always a lot bigger than what was in the camp.
Yeah, so camp, do you know LAIF? Local, so LAIF is the bigger pool from the state. Camp is like a direct competitor to LAIF. There's like a 7-day yield. So essentially, the money that's in that JPA can be pulled at any moment if the district so desires. There's no duration on it, so it's not like that 5.9 million is just a small portion of, I might misquote here, but I think it's definitely above $1 billion in assets under management on the camp pool, which has shareholders and all that good stuff.
You're the advisor to whoever has the camp.
Yeah, so my role,
That,
so the advisor and the actual, like the portfolio management done in that pool is PFM.
who are you managing on behalf of? Who, when you say we should do X, Y, Z, you do the trades?
The portfolio manager does the trades.
Who's the portfolio manager?
So the portfolio manager is Michael Downs. PFM.
So PFM is advising PFM on trades,
Yes, in one retrospect.
okay? And who is the custodian of the assets? Maybe that's the right question.
So the custodian of the assets, since this portfolio is camp tied, is US Bank.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
so I know it's not as layers to it. By all means, if there's more questions, keep them coming. I'll continue, and maybe me talking about the rest will shed some light on some of the questions. So on page 12, you see the portfolio activity. So in this particular portfolio, everything that was invested in U.S. Treasuries, federal agencies, and municipal agencies, CMBS, CMO. From this activity that you see on there, that gray line doesn't represent sales, it represents maturity. So all of this has matured
Forced sale,
in the last quarter.
in effect, yeah.
Yeah, so it's matured. Now, if you look at page 13 from the historical sector allocation,
Before we leave page 12,
yes.
it looks like every sector has lost money.
So
Am I
don't,
reading that wrong?
Yeah, that's a lot of, there's a lot of parentheses there.
so those are maturities, they're not losses. So all that amount,
Just withdrawals from the fund?
so these are maturities. So say, for example, take a US Treasury, within the quarter it matured. So it matured at principal. So then that principal was put into the camp pool. So you haven't lost anything. That 3 million or so that's in there, that's what's now in the camp pool. So you haven't lost. It's just maturities. The parentheses, I can see that, but no, it's maturities. Okay.
So what's happening with what's in the camp pool?
Have additional bars below that would be where it's being moved to. Right?
Yeah, that could make them. And I'll take that note back to our analysts who prepare those.
And we could see that it balances out. There's still maybe some plus or minus, but it, so what this looks like.
Sounds good. Yeah, that's great feedback. I'll take it back to the analysts. Okay, and now on page 13, you have the historical sector allocation. So this page is just really showing where the assets have been in this portfolio and where they are now. So I'm gonna focus on September, which is Q3 of 25 and Q4 December of 25. You can see on there that 47% of the portfolio was still in US Treasuries at the end of Q3 of 2025. Since then, if you look at page 12, right, those things have matured out, which once it matured, that money was then put into the camp pool. So it's still earning a yield. Even though it matured at principal, that money was put into the pool. That way it can still earn a yield and not just sitting around not earning anything.
What's in, under the circumstances, what's the yield that it's,
3.84%. And then you can just see on there, right? Corporate's still at 8%, so there's still 8% of it that's in the corporate space. The biggest differentiator, right? The more maturities we had was in that US Treasury space, which is now in the camp pool.
But the camp pool, all the assets in the camp pool are invested in something.
Yes, they are.
It's just hidden from us.
It is. And I can actually, it's not shown in this report.
I mean, because you said the yield is
3.84.
3.84.
Yes.
How did you figure that out?
So every day there is
A bunch of different assets with different yields, right?
yeah, so camp has its own like the yield is reported on a daily basis. So on a daily basis, there's a newsletter that goes out to the camp investors where it shows the 7-day yield. And it also has like a number of other data and facts on a daily basis for it. I'll be more than happy to share with the board after tonight. I can go because the program administrator for camp actually sits right across from me in the office. And I can pull exactly what's in that camp pool so you can have a better understanding of what it is instead of it being kind of, because it's not on this report, but I can definitely bring that forth.
You could tell me it was a bag of angry cats and I wouldn't know the difference.
See, I wouldn't do that to you. But
Thank you.
of course. Now on page 14, the portfolio performance. So again, I mentioned earlier that the portfolio is not being managed to that 1 to 5 benchmark. The benchmark in here represents the 1 to 5 benchmark. We're putting it on there just for comparison. Despite it not being managed to that benchmark for this past quarter, it was right at the benchmark at 1.12. The portfolio was at 1.12 and the benchmark was at 1.2. So even to the split at that point in this past quarter.
1, 3, and 5 years, we missed the benchmark.
Yes.
Case.
Yes, and that is because it hasn't been actively managed. So from my understanding, and Scott, we can start talking about this from historical perspective prior to my arrival and kind of looking at this portfolio. So
Not actively managed.
yes. So not actively managed would mean that whatever was in the portfolio, EFM's instruction from prior general manager, finance director, Valley Sanitary District was there are liquidity needs. And because of those liquidity needs, we do not want to be actively managed, meaning whatever was in the portfolio, say something was bought in 2019 or 2020 and it matured in 2024, was not to be reinvested. And in a sense, it was meant to not be actively managed. So if it was actively managed, the portfolio manager has a directive, of course, following California government code and the investment policy, to reinvest when they seem appropriate to keep up with the benchmark, have the duration to have securities mature between that 0 to 1 space, 2 to 3, and 3 out to 5 years. But it has been some time now, a few years, since the district has been actively managed, meaning that at some point it was going to fall off the duration of the benchmark, meaning it was going to underperform.
So not reinvested. Tell me again what that means.
So
Sits in US Bank, earning 1/10 of 1% interest.
No, so what's happened to the assets that haven't been reinvested, they've been put into the camp pool to at least earn a yield in some percentage, to not sit around and not earn anything.
Okay.
Now, is that, and I'm going to assume what I'm going to ask is permissible within statute. What's in the camp pool is absolutely liquid?
Yes.
Okay. And what, given, what is the performance comparison, say, with short-term treasury bills, 3 months?
Oh, compared to the actual pool? So,
Because a 3-month window is, even in the interest of liquidity, I'm sure is something that the district could tolerate. Some, if not all of that, in the event the treasury bills would be.
This is saying 3 month is 3.63.
From treasury bills?
US Treasury yield curve, yes. So the
I
camp,
just read an article
camp
today
pool
that it
is
was
doing
almost 5.5%, 3 months. Current ones, no, this is current stuff, so
so
current buys.
great question, complex answer for you.
Well, in that case, I have to go to sleep.
I'll keep it less than an hour 40. I'm kidding. So what I would recommend, and this is coming from PFM, I've had conversations with staff and I've had conversations with the portfolio manager, that hasn't been actively managing, just the perspective, right? Could you technically go out and buy US Treasuries and be in the 3-month, 6-month space? Yes, you could. However, given the current market environment and the Fed's kind of easing policy and cycle, it's perhaps not the best idea because rates are going to fall. They are falling, right? Within camp, you have the accessibility of the assets, right? So if OHI were to come into a situation where they need liquidity, they need to pull assets, being in the camp pool gives you that opportunity to get ahead and pull that without having to pull early at a loss, right? That's one part of it. The other part of this is what is the district's direction and what is sort of the long-term objective from the district in terms of these assets, right? Within camp, in that camp pool, there is a segment, and we had a meeting with staff where I had the program administrator present on camp term, which is a much viable and better option than going out and just buying US Treasuries at a 3 or 6 months. Camp term, the way it works is, think of it like a CD, and I'm going to use that word loosely. You'll lock in at 3.84, 3.7, and you can ladder out different amounts of investments using camp term. Because of the size of the portfolio and the amount of assets in there, keeping it within term and pool and using those vehicles for the districts, we've recommended to staff that it's a good way to move forward. The alternative to that was if there were more assets and it was like, I don't know, I'm just going to say 8 million, and don't quote me on this, right? Then being actively managed, going out longer on the curve makes much more sense because of the current environment that we're in, right? However, that is not the situation in this moment in time with this portfolio and with the district, because if you look at the actual, and I'm going to start hopping around here because the rest is just, but if you look at the managed account subtotals, it's at 1.6. So what's left in this portfolio is 1.6 to mature out. The majority of this portfolio is already in that camp pool, earning that 3.84 yield.
And excuse me, how large is the camp pool?
I know it's over $1 billion assets under management. And I'm not giving you a direct number because I don't want to misquote you.
That's fine.
Yeah, but it's
I got some sense of size. And
yeah.
it doesn't,
it's a big pool.
and being part of a big pool is generally a good thing.
It's been it's the original
By the pool and die by the pool.
it's the original pool that was created. Most agencies, districts, cities have money in LAIF, and the majority have it in camp. Camp has been around for more than 35 years. I've actually had the pleasure of sitting in with their board and listening to kind of different meetings. I've been to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and sat in with the actual portfolio managers, the credit quality and everything that goes into managing that pool. So I would happily tell you, it's a great place to be at least in this situation, it's very advantageous.
And not nearly as acrimonious as we are.
So that's kind of the status of the portfolio in this moment in time. The last page in this report just shows accrual basis earnings. So there you can actually see realized gain or losses. So for the 3 months, it's 178 in quote unquote losses. But the change in amortized cost, you see the total earnings 46,832. The last page in this report just shows the issuer diversification. So in terms of what's in the portfolio at this moment in time, that 1.6, where is that really? It shows you U.S. Treasuries, the agencies, MBS, and then the corporates, and it just kind of lays out a very small kind of look into the portfolio, where that money is invested in this moment of time.
As of the end of December.
As of the end of December. I checked this morning.
It doesn't seem like this chart agrees with what I did.
This is only the 1.6 million.
Yes.
This excludes camp.
Oh, okay, that's just the 1.6.
Yes.
Okay. Questions?
Thank you. Scott, did you have anything else?
Yeah, if it would please the board, perhaps a conversation and any recommendations for what term lengths, if there's anything that's coming to people's mind. I think it would be helpful to me and helpful to PFM if we're going to continue having them manage that. And give them some direction on if there's some interest on the duration out, right? Am I making sense?
There's a set of rules that
There's a maximum set, yeah.
have to be followed in terms of what you can invest in. I'm presuming camp is doing that too.
Yes.
Well, camp is all short term. Camp term is slightly different in that it spreads it over a ladder you can ladder from 1 day to 365.
Yes. To that point you just made, yes, camp and term both follow California government code. So you won't, like, it's to the policy. There's nothing there that will ever be out of policy using those vehicles.
Why do we need anything except camp? Is there a problem getting money out of camp?
No, it's completely liquid. The only advantage of having something other than camp is that you may be missing out on the longer term. You may be missing out on the 6 month, 9 month, and 12 months.
Camp is all short term.
Camp is all short term. Camp term allows you to ladder. I think it basically mimics T-bills.
It mimics T-bills to a sense where you could go out to 365. So technically, I've always used this example. If there's a project at the district or we know we're going to need X amount of dollars in October.
All bills, not bonds. T-bills up to a year and bonds after that, right?
Right.
Okay. But by having our assets in camp, can we ask that any of it be in camp term? And if so, whom do we ask?
So if you would like to be in camp term, Scott, we would need is your direction to do so. We would have a conversation with Scott. And I know the person who does that trading in term as well. That's all the direction we need. It's allowed by policy already. We would just need to go ahead. And I think there's just one form that needs to be filled out. But other than that, we could do this tomorrow if we really wanted to.
Is money is static for 1 year or more?
Yeah, it's static within that 1 year. So you can go out 3 months it's literally 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months. So you decide how many months.
Term is still all within 1 year.
It is still with on 365, yes.
We'd have to see kind of what the performance metric is, with,
Yeah.
50%, some kind of arbitrary, not arbitrary, but some kind of specific increments,
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, if we bought 5-year treasury bonds, for example, and the Fed rate is going down, those bonds are gonna be worth more than we paid for them.
Right.
And that's what you anticipate. And it may be baby steps, but rates are coming down.
Rates are coming down. In an ideal situation, going out longer it's the best solution. Given where the portfolio sits right now in the position, I don't know if going out longer makes the best sense.
Why would it not? Well,
You could, but you're gonna be locked in. Say you took the 5 million, you locked it in for 5 years, right? Rates come down, yes, but if you have liquidity needs or anything like that, I mean, you're
I understand liquidity means, but if you had a 5-year bond and you decided after 3 years that you needed some of that money, all of it, whatever, is there a market for 5-year bonds that are already in somebody else's hands?
there is a secondary market, but I mean, it could be at a loss.
You usually take a haircut.
Even though the value of the bonds have gone up.
It's called blood in the water. It is smelled.
Okay. So why do we need anything but camp and camp term?
So, or Scott, did you want to add something?
And, I don't know. I mean, I think there's probably a benefit of looking out and laddering some of the investments on the term, out from, whether it's out to 2 years, whether it's out to a year, there's probably a benefit on that. I think we would probably need to be looking at our cash flow and balancing our known cash flow that we have against these and move forward in that. So I guess the intent would be is just try to squeeze out another couple of tenths, really.
You're not talking about a huge amount, so think the prudent thing is to get a spreadsheet on it and see what it is. And it's something that's once again prudent, and then see whether it's worth doing, because it may ultimately not be.
Right.
Not actively managed means whatever bonds and bills we have, we're holding till they mature,
Yes.
and they all turn into cash and they go into camp.
Yes.
Okay, so this whole portfolio of ours is on autopilot.
Yes.
It's not getting any active management.
It is not.
Whether we didn't ask for it, or we asked not to have it, that's fine. I'm trying to figure out why we do anything except stay with camp and camp term.
Well, one of the things, if you remember, Jeff always telling, we had the discussion with investment people that with the fact that in our budget, we were projecting 1% return on our. Had a discussion with these people at the time.
I'm saying camp is making almost 4%.
And so what they did since then is move the money around to where we're now getting close to 3.8. So in my view, I'm very happy with what's going on, but it is a change from what we were doing 3 years ago. So, it's fortunate.
Seeing the numbers,
We can put it in a place like camp and get 3.8. We could have, on the corporate side, put everything in Tesla a year ago and made 100%. So, those are the kind of things that are all possible. But it's just a question, as
Sure, we're allowed
Scott
to.
said.
We're not. Equity.
No, that's the point is, at the time, we could put it in CDs and make 5%, I think is what it was at the time. And You know, we could put 15.
That really is held somewhere else,
We
yeah.
could put 15% of our money into CDs at the time. We didn't do it, but, you know, I just thought it was ridiculous to be earning 1%. We could be earning, in simple terms, 5. So to me, this is a vast improvement over where we were 3
While
years
still
ago.
maintaining enough sufficient liquidity
Right.
to,
We can manage
Yeah,
our
you know,
business
to
and not.
look
If FEMA would pay our claims, we wouldn't have the liquidity problems.
Yeah, well, that's another.
well,
issue.
given the,
Potential problem.
given the wholesale slaughtering and disenfranchisement of staff, they should have lots of money.
They don't have anybody to dole it out. That's the problem. Nobody's there to do the paperwork.
We should.
Anyway, I think
So,
This is
where
mellow.
this is great.
So
At the time, Scott would
6 million.
got more in
6 million?
too, just on our checking.
It is actively managed, but not actively managed. What's going on with that?
Can you repeat the question again, please?
You said there's 1.6 million of the 7.8 or whatever. It's really ours. It's not, I mean, it's not in camp.
It's not in camp. It's in the,
What's going on with that 1.6 million and who's going on with it?
so that 1.6 is, if you go to page 17, that's where that 1.6 is sitting. It's invested in these securities,
Okay, who invested that?
the portfolio manager.
Same person who's investing all the camp assets?
Yes and no. So this is the, and I smile because it's complex and different to understand. So you have an assigned portfolio manager to Ojai Valley Sanitation District.
For this
For this,
17 stuff.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so one portfolio manager manages this for the district, right? Even though they're not actively managing and actively buying things, they're the ones taking a look at it on a daily basis and seeing, okay, I mean, nothing's gonna change here, but I am looking at it. When I say PFM is the investment advisor to camp, I really do mean that, but it's a completely different set of portfolio managers that sit within PFM, usually the head of portfolio strategies and fixed income, that is managing the actual pool for camp.
Okay, and if we continue not actively managing this 1.6 million, it will all eventually be in camp.
Yes, it will mature and it would be sweep to camp.
Sounds like a great strategy.
I mean, we say that, but, the corporate, investments, those, 5 stocks aren't gonna be maturing.
Those are bonds, I'm
Are
sure.
those bonds?
Yes.
Rated,
Right, fine,
Rated like
fabulous.
bonds.
Yeah, excuse me, I didn't correlate that. Yeah, okay, sounds acceptable. Anybody have any thoughts otherwise?
no, I'm just curious if our PFM portfolio manager, as opposed to camps, is looking at this list every day and saying, yep, looks the same as yesterday. What does that cost us?
So there is a minimum that's 25,000 on the investment portfolio. And I believe the first 25 million is on 8 basis points. Am I?
0.1 for the first 25.08 basis points after 25 million.
Yes.
Okay,
That's an annual number, right? A daily number?
No, and
okay. Thank you.
I will add, if the portfolio was all in camp and camp term, and there wouldn't be annual.
Sure. But the only safe way to get it into camp is let it all mature.
In one retrospect, yes, but I can ask the portfolio manager and to look into that as well.
Please do. We'll
I'm
have,
It's curious.
several.
What's the best path forward for us?
That I can do.
Yeah, because there's gonna be a point where, the costs, in the event there are any costs, we're looking at costs on one side.
Right.
another side. So, yeah, that's, you have, everybody have sufficient direction at this point? Fabulous. In that case, do we need to do a vote on that? No? Okay. Right.
Advice from the board.
Okay. Excuse me? Yes, I think so. Okay, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody.
We could entertain you tonight.
Okay, so then we're on item 12. Fiscal year 2026, 27, and 27, 28 budget preparation schedule.
For your consideration is the proposed budget for this year. For budget prep for meetings and adoption. It's summarized in the table on page 218. So in details, we'll be looking for a March 23rd, March board meeting for a preliminary budget planning discussion. The staff would present preliminary budget, would be a special meeting. The 22nd, it would be another special meeting. We've done that the last couple of years where we bunch them back to back like that.
May and June, we go a little early so that we can get things done before 1st of July. Ross, I'd like to make a motion to approve 12A through E.
Is there a second?
Second.
Allison, please.
Director Martinson,
Yes.
Director Curtis,
Budget schedule, Jack.
I think he's on mute.
Yes.
Okay, thank you,
Yes,
Jack.
thank you.
Director Kentosh,
Yes.
Director Quillisi,
Yes.
Director Reed, and Chair Ulrich.
Yes. Okay. Item 13, annual investment policy, resolution number 2026-1.
For your consideration, update to the resolution policy by rule. This does not have to be updated every year, but in practice to update it. It is similar to what was last year's, except there were a few changes based off of PFM's recommendation. The changes that were suggested required a reduction in the maximum maturity. We had previously the district bonds, treasuries, all those for some reason stretched out to 20 years, which was in conflict with California code. And we've shortened it up to the 5 years that stays within California
So
code.
the investment policy here, this resolution, is follow the state law.
Yes. And it mimics the state law.
Mimicking is good. Okay. Case, need a motion.
I'll do it. I'll make a motion to approve 13A.
I heard what was a second. Director Curtis,
Yes.
Director Martinson,
Yes.
Director Kentosh,
Yes.
Quillisi,
Yes.
Director Reed, and Chair Ulrich.
Yes. Okay, item number 14, sewer main rehabilitation project contract 2025-05, contract change orders number 1 and 2.
If it please the board, I'd like to have Liz.
Everyone, so in June of this year, you guys approved a CIPP project that's some large diameter lining between Burnham and our lift station. Now we've cement pipe from the siphon where our spill was all the way to our lift station, so that was complete, as well as some critical locations. Of 8-inch asbestos pipe was also lined in the city of Ojai, and then that majority of the project. And the more difficult part of the project was Pickle Creek was lined. This is where all of these streets, Apricot, Olive, and into the creek there, and it goes down behind the hay store, American Hay, and makes its way over to the river.
The 8-inch line is along Mountain View Road,
Yeah, there was a little bit, yeah, Mountain View.
right in front of the school.
And so, it went well. It was a lot of work. Staff, I was out for the entire portion of construction, so I have credit to Anna, Scott, and the who stepped in and I worked in civil to get the work done. There, a 6-inch line, and ideally we do not line 6-inch clay pipe. It's a little offset. It makes that inner diameter that much smaller, or for our equipment to navigate it, that much flow. Typically we don't, but there are occasions where we've done it. For example, we did it underneath on signal for the. There's a line that runs under the main building itself, and so that was a 6-inch line that on because we're not gonna building. So another example of this was in this project area. It was discovered by our collection staff that there's a 6-inch line in aerated conditions with intrusion and broken pipe that required lining. And it is not a good candidate for tension or pipe burst because at the end of this line it goes under the creek into a manhole that's somewhere around 30 feet deep. It's pretty much our deepest manhole within our system. Risking the bursting head getting stuck where you it's too great, and therefore lining was the best option. We negotiated with In Situ Form, our contractor, to have them the price that they were the low bid contractor. He said yes. To do this work, we're very much in the space of a couple of homeowners there because the bypass is so common. It's in that area that we thought it was prudent to accept that negotiated price that matched our bid unit price and execute. The work has been they were on site. Additionally, we had a really small change order for some mineral deposits that were discovered during construction that had to take a little bit of extra time to be removed as part of our specification that we allow. And that was marked as allowable markup. And those used were scrutinized by our staff and by our civil engineering. And I know that gets to that also. So those two combined, I think, are nearly $70,000. However, we are anticipating a significant credits due to OVSD. Like we project the linear footage and they give us per cost, and there were some actual productions of total linear footage project for. That's one example, but for each pipe size, there was a little bit of a deduction. And then there's also still some other credits. At a lot of the connections, we install a top hat, but some of them were deemed to not be necessary, so they were eliminated from the project, and they're a little more expensive. We do a big bypass in order to install that. So those are another credit to OVS. Expect the total budget adjustment delta to be in the neighborhood of $10,000, but we're still negotiating the credits. So that's new time. So I guess at most we're anticipating $70,000, but we're still expected to get a significant amount of credits, which will hopefully be presented at this next board meeting.
I'm not surprised that it's change order 1, 65,000. There's board action. Change order 2 is very small, but it's because the total of the contract is still outside your discretion.
Correct.
I move approval of 14A and B.
Second.
Director Curtis,
Yeah,
Director Martinson.
Yes.
Director Kentosh.
Yes.
Director Pelosi,
Yes.
Director Reed,
Yes.
and Chair Ulrich.
Yes.
Okay, item number 15, receive and approve final 2025 climate action effects vulnerability assessment. mitigation plan.
Yes, for your consideration is the final climate plan. So this plan was the one prepared with Fisher. I've been through it numerous times. We've had another submittal over to the regional board. We've had a conversation with the regional board. John Blue may still be with us. I see his picture, but it's also possible that he checked out.
He's been frozen for.
Exactly.
I'm,
Oh, there you go.
I'm here. I just couldn't figure out how to turn my
You are.
Handsome devil.
So, so John, Jim Fisher and I have had conversations with the regional board, and I feel confident if we sign and submit this, then we have finished this exercise.
Accepted. With no reservations. Okay.
For the purpose of evasion.
Good, that's it. Do I have a,
I'll move to receive the final plan.
I'll second.
good?
Very good.
Let me start over. I move to approve and receive final 2025 climate action effects vulnerability assessment. It's 15A and B.
15A and
Second.
let's C here on this.
Well,
Well, okay. 15A and B then. Okay. In that case, then, Alex, yes. Well, this is all special because it's the chairman's. We'll take excuse me? Comment? Okay. And in that case, then Allison, please.
and then just to make an announcement for the record, the public comment, general comment in favor of just acknowledging that the district created this plan and it was a positive application. So that will,
Liked our plan.
yes, and so that will also be part of the administrative record, but just to state that we got a public.
The cockles of my heart are fully warm.
Right.
Yes, please.
Perfect. Director Curtis,
Yes.
Mr. Martinson,
Yes.
Director Kentuck,
Yes.
Director Closey,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Chair Ulrich.
Yes. Okay. Item 16. Should item 16 be a re-agendized for notice first reading?
yes, it should.
Okay. In that case, then, we're going to re-agendize that for the next meeting, item number 16. No further actions required. Okay. Item 17, prior fiscal year budget, income and expense reconciliation and closing of 2003 bond payment reserve fund. Budget adjustment number 2026-15.
This is a good news item. Reconciled our 24-25 budget with a surplus in both income and operating budget, totaling $669,183. Fairly consistent with the overage we've seen over the last couple of years. Huge anomalies this year. One thing I will note that for the last couple of years, our sewer service revenue has been higher than our actual tax roll sewer service revenue than estimated. We're going to try to do a little bit better job getting a closer number this time. One of the unfortunate parts about doing the budget 6 months before you actually submit tax roll is you never know what's going to happen in a 6-month period. So I'm going to try to do some projections and sort of hedge on what potential growth might happen to get that number a little closer, to reduce sort of that overage. Overage is always good news, but yes, we are going to try to get a little bit closer to that number next year. Also, now that we have completed the audit for the 24-25 budget year and have made the final bond payment on our 2003 bond, that reserve can now be eliminated. It's most appropriate that those funds go back into a contingency fund, makes it universally available to all for any such purpose as unbudgeted expenses or to buy down the rate for the benefit of all ratepayers. So it makes it sort of universally transferable from that fund to anything that may be necessary. So that is staff's recommendation for that. As far as the actual overage of the budget itself, It is recommended that that be transferred to the collection system reserve to help fund the remaining projects for this fiscal year.
All right, in that case, then, that is motion to approve item number 17. Number 17.
Second that.
Allison, please.
Mr. Curtis,
Yeah,
Mr. Martinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kentosh,
Yeah.
Director Quillisi,
Yes.
Director Reed,
Yes.
and Chair Olds.
Yes. Okay, information items for receipt and file. We have the month, the financial reports. Anybody have any comments or questions? Monthly investment report, staff reports.
Thanks to staff for all the good pictures.
Yeah,
Very informative.
second on that. Okay, item 21, approval of.
Oh, yeah, so there's two 17s, so just shift everything down, so your numbering may be off. If you look, there's two.
My numbering. There's always something special about the chairman.
Is correct. I think the numbering, is it wrong on yours too?
We're going to follow.
Okay, well, anyway, there's two 17s I noticed when I was.
Title starts with approval.
Yeah, that's the one. Okay, the one with that says 21. Approval of 100% grant, principal forgiveness eligibility for Ojai Valley Sanitary District Septic to Sewer Conversion Project, West Casita Springs Clean Water State Revolving Fund, project number 8779-110.
Well, I think this is just a receive and file.
Okay,
Yeah, it's a receive and file. It's a
that's
notice.
all we need to know about it.
That's it. I'm happy to go over the details of it if you want me to, but.
Details, but have we received the same approval, which I understand was notice of eligibility approval, not notice of available funding?
That's right.
But there are three pieces of Casita Springs plus Trusty Lane plus,
There were only two pieces of Casita Springs.
no, it became three pieces.
Fine.
And North Rice Road.
Must have been when I
There's
wasn't here.
Between the highway and the river, between the highway and Nye Road, and the other side of Nye Road.
East side.
Side,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
So there's three
We'll call that-
pieces.
We'll call that the Johnny Cash side.
So have we gotten notice of eligibility approval on all five pieces now?
No, and this one is somewhat special. So North Rice Road and Trusty Lane, those have already been, they went through a different process in that they had been defined as either DACs or SDAC. And so we received a notice of eligibility for those two, but under a certain circumstance. West Casita Springs, for some reason, when they did their review in 2023, there was not enough people that reported. And so it didn't technically qualify as an SDAC or a DAC. So I approached the regional board and said, hey, is there something special we can do? And I had brought in some data that was being utilized with it's the conglomerate. What is it? Yeah, I'm sorry, the consolidation of.
It's a numerosity issue?
It was a number of reports issue. So they probably have to literally walk the beat and get reports. And if they don't get the reports, then there's not enough data to give it the SDAC or the DAC.
Census issue.
It's a census issue, exactly.
Lack of a quorum.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I approached the regional board separately and said, hey, let's go back and look at the data. Let's look at some common sense. Let's look at what happened down at Casita Springs Mutual Water Company. Is that what John Dickinson's? Yeah, okay. And they used that data. They accepted that data. They reviewed it themselves. And so in essence, they gave us a special eligibility notice without having to go back out for census. So that's what this is. And the other two are still in the Ethernet. Central Casita Springs and East Casita Springs are still being determined.
So we're not gonna do anything.
Oh, yeah.
We just have a piece of paper that says,
You're on the
money shows up, you'll get some. go ahead and do this.
That's right.
Well,
On the
that may-
list.
That actually may play out best because it's incremental rather than, yeah, because I think
More
that,
than
that work,
advocating staff go do 5 projects.
that what will have to be incremental and best probably served by being. So, okay, item, maybe, memo SB 707 Brown Act updates.
I can hit some of the high points real quick. I know it's getting late. So Senate Bill 707 took effect this month, had some revisions to the Brown Act. A lot of them onerous and deal with translating the agenda and providing interpretation services, but those only apply to bigger agencies and cities. So luckily we escaped those, but I think probably most interest to the board is the teleconferencing rules. So I'll just hit the high points really quickly. So there's still 2 methods participating remotely. The first is the additional teleconferencing, and that's we're using with Jack, where you actually go out and post the agenda at the location. So
Flex audio and video.
right. So the agenda has to identify this remote location. The agenda has to be posted at that location. Got to be accessible to the public. Yes, they're actually the right to participate in that location if they so desire. Quorum of the district must still participate from within district boundaries, but you don't have to all be in the same place.
Jack counts.
So Jack counts still. And yeah, all votes by roll. Typical. So that's been the same. It hasn't changed. There's no sunset date on it. It looks like that's going to go on definitely. They did clean up a little bit was the just cause emergency circumstances rules. They've scrapped emergency circumstances and just said we're calling everything just cause. We're trying to simplify it. So I'll just go ahead and list what just cause is. So first one would be childcare or caregiving, child, parent, grandchild, sibling, spouse, or domestic partner. You could use that. Contagious illness, get any, anything. If you feel you're contagious, doesn't need to be anything particular. But, that's grounds to participate remotely. A need related to a physical or mental condition. Travel on official business.
Yeah, mental.
Not only of the district, but if you're traveling for some other agency, would also count. Immunocompromised family member or a physical or family medical emergency. So they kind of combine the just cause and emergency all into ones. Caveat here is that you can only use this twice a year because we're a district that meets once a month. It's the limit. And for this one, quorum is to meet in the same location. So
The just
I like how
cause.
they, I like how that.
I know.
Little tweaks.
And if there's anything else I should point out about that. Yeah, I think those are the high points. You have to announce whether anyone in the room's over 18. Yeah, a different rule than. That's it. Any questions or?
I just have 2. That's because I'm also Ojai City Clerk, so I'm trying to manage this SB 707 the hill a bit. 2 things that are affecting the city. I'd like to know if they're affecting the district. First is, excuse me, having to distribute a copy of the Brown Act each member of the legislative body. In the city, it's not just the 7 elected, me, council, and the treasurer. It's also in commission, the other board commission members. It's supposed to be provided with a copy of the Brown Act.
That's true in our case too.
Okay, I have clipped a copy as of middle of December. Word or it's just a Word document because I clipped it out of PDF that is the state law. And I can provide that to you. I could provide it to Allison. It doesn't matter. There is also a Brown Act compliance manual is cited in one of the recent, within the last 30 days or so, DSDA letters. So, and I'm not sure, I don't think that's the Brown Act. I think it's advice on the Brown Act.
Right.
But I would be happy to provide those because I have access to them over there. So that's an item.
Yeah, I think that would be great if you could send the Brown Act to Allison, and if you want to do the other one too, you know.
The second thing that affects the city, and I'm not sure if it affects the district, is that the city is required now to put up a bulletin board, weatherproofed bulletin board. So it's the thing that you see in the arcade plaza where there's notices, but they're behind glass doors. But the glass doors are not locked. And in that venue, the legislative body, at least the city's legislative body, city council, is required to allow any citizen who wishes to post that citizen's translation of the agenda in that space. The city is not responsible for what that translated agenda says, but the city is required to allow someone to do that. And so we're going through a process right now of deciding whether around City Hall, put up this thing where people can post translations of the city council agenda. And I'm hoping the answer is no. Does that rule apply to the district as well? Because this thing has to be available to the public without restriction. That is, it's not locked and it's available 24/7.
Those translation and interpreting type rules apply to larger districts than ours and cities. So 99.9% sure that we're
confirmation of that would be wonderful. That's a real pain in the neck. I'll send stuff to Allison.
How many pages is the Brown Act these days? 78?
It's on that order. It was 60 to 70 pages.
Well, because I don't, last time I read it was 78 and that was a couple of years ago, I think.
It's great if you have insomnia. Read the
They
Brown.
only tend to get thicker rather than thinner.
Well, that's what I'm saying is it doesn't seem to be getting denser, not longer. So, God knows what's going on.
Well, if I haven't made changes to a bunch of laws, I'm a legislator. How would anyone know that I was here?
Yes. Yes, your mark, so to speak. Okay, all right, fabulous. Committee reports. I think there were any committee meetings. Reports on meetings, seminars, or conferences attended. Anyone? I have something. Ooh. I went to CASA. CSRMA is always fabulous. Risk management, things you didn't think of or think of enough, but they were, spent a little bit of time, and I've had this conversation with Allison. They spent a little time kind of promoting a new software regarding workers' comp, which since they already have one in place that according to Allison works pretty good. That's a little, and I could tell there was a little confusion among the attendees because it's like, what is this? Because they gave them a better part of an hour for this presentation. So that's nice to be reassured that sleeping dogs are continuing to lie on that one because the system as it is works. The main course of the conference were two things that to me are significant. The of the agencies, and specifically their larger agencies, continue to have biosolids at the forefront. Because now that we're getting resolution on a agency-wide, or at least a statewide basis of what we're doing with water, as in soon we'll be naming our sanitary districts into water production facilities. You know, there were some laughs, but it's actually serious. And, you know,
Water purification at least.
well, no, you don't.
No, we're not that far yet. Yeah.
Manufacturing facilities. Okay? Because there were a couple of people who said, well, isn't water purification more accurate? I said, that's not really the case. So, and, you know, I mean, we have the city of Ventura doing all of this for us to watch. Okay, and in the meantime, they apparently have to work in consort with the city of Oxnard because they have a larger facility. But in any case, the biosolids is still what to do with all of this production, because you can't, you know, if you're not trying to put carbon in the air and combustion byproduct, you can't burn it, or you can't burn it as efficiently enough to with it. So apparently, we're still going to continue to render it onto the earth.
Compost and
Yes.
spread.
But you know, when you hear about the production of some of the agencies, both in Los Angeles and in the Bay Area, I mean, it's really amazing. My biggest takeaway, which I think is going to be helpful to us, and I've already shared this with Scott, was a presentation by some people that actually have to do with water agencies. But they had one of the key speakers was a representative of Iowa Department of Natural Resources. And he had worked for a city before he went to work for the state. And he came up with this notion that instead of treating compliance schedules as something that if you don't hit the deadline, you're out of compliance and susceptible to notice of violation. His notion was, and he got buy-in by the state of Iowa, that for agencies that have capital improvement projects, or and specifically if they're going to be updating their TMDL or whatever reason, their treatment system or their collection system, to treat it as a construction project, so that the state really can have participatory conversation and participation with the agency to get a construction project ended. There isn't, the end of the line is not notice of violation. The end of the line is a completed project. And it was like, this wasn't even out of the box thinking. This was something else that certainly you have to endeavor to see if our agencies will buy in on it. It makes for more plausible system that isn't penalty-based, essentially. So, and Scott has the name of the guy, and he said, anybody wants to call me, call me. And he used a practical Midwestern approach to this. And everyone kept asking, does this really work? I mean, how'd you do that? And it was because it hadn't been thought of. So it's a carrot approach and combined working together approach rather than a penalty or a stick approach, which is what everyone's used to. So I only try to come out away from a CASA conference with one or two. Okay, so, all right, so the next items of interest, correspondence, articles, board member and general manager comment from.
I have a quick one. I'm on the board of Interrivers Groundwater. One of the, there's 7 directors, one of the other directors is appointed by the county of, the old director, Arnie Ansel, retired. He is appointed director. His name is Jeff Pullman. We're with Jeff again. I tried to get away.
What happens, especially if you live up here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where is the boundary of the upper Ventura River versus rest of the Ventura?
Upper Ventura River goes up to along the Ventura River, the water basin ends around Friends Ranch. Little tiny house up there.
Know that area.
The southern boundary goes to
Down
around.
to the fish ladder or so.
It goes past the fish. It goes past 150. It goes all the way to Foster.
That's the next piece.
No, it's all one continuous groundwater. Friends Ranch up in along Highway 33 down to about
Foster Park, okay.
The city of Ventura is pumping from the very southern end of the basin.
They certainly are. Varying degrees of success.
Yes, well, I'm involved in that lawsuit too.
Yes, there we are. Okay.
Everybody else, 14,000 people. That's all.
All right. Anybody else? Okay, general manager comment?
Yeah, I'd like to really sing the praises of the water treatment plant operators over Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, and New Year's Day. We received substantial portion of our annual rain over a few days. They ran that plant 24/7 for a few hours in there. No overages, everything stayed within bounds. So a big thanks to Carl, Riley, Brandon, and Matt.
It was not easy.
That was not easy. Yep. It was quite a feat, honestly. I also want to acknowledge Alex Valenzuela. He was selected as the CWEA Tri-Counties Collection System Person of the Year. Israel and I had an opportunity to present up on January 9th up at the awards banquet, and Alex is now in the running for the state contention, and that'll be announced at the expo in Sacramento, April 7th through 10th, sometime in there. So super happy with it. Yep.
That's it. Okay, is any other comments, or I'm going to call this meeting adjourned at 9:37.
Right back.
Thanks, Liz.